Science City was a pair of buildings located just south of Shibuya Scramble Crossing. A small plaza rested in front of the entrance to the east building. While it was not nearly as big as the ones in front of Hachiko, the Moe statue, or other popular destinations, it still found itself used quite often as a meeting place. Even now, around a dozen people were staring at their cell phones, waiting for their engagements to begin. Among those few, only one girl wore an oddly stern expression on her face as she idled. A high school student known as Ioi Sina. Sina? She was standing next to the escalator leading down from the Inokashira line station. She leaned her back against a nearby white pillar as she thoroughly scanned the environment with her gaze. In contrast to both the sharpness of her gaze and the season, she was nibbling on a popsicle, which in turn made her appear incredibly charming to the casual observer. In truth, the girl was not waiting for anyone, but was instead quietly observing the passers-by. From where she was standing, she could see all the way to Jumbotron located at Scramble Crossing. A music video from a famous singer was being displayed on it, and on the lower portion of the screen, a news ticker was reporting the latest information on the recent string of incidents, colloquially referred to as New Gen. Not a day went by without New Gen related news. It was everywhere. TV, newspapers, the internet, weekly magazines, jumbotrons, electronic billboards, everywhere. Although Sana had absolutely no interest in the phenomenon, she would often overhear people speaking about it as she passed by them on the streets of Shibuya. Whose eyes are those eyes? Over the past few days, she had begun to see several people wearing t-shirts with those words emblazoned on them. In Shibuya, the phrase had become popular as an obscure meme, and it was now starting to really take off. Despite the brutal scenes the words originated from, people happily walked on down the streets, raving about how well the shirts were selling at souvenir shops in Harajuku, a clear indication of how disinterested people were in anything other than themselves. Sina snorted quietly in contemptuous display, finishing the last bite of her popsicle, and closed her eyes softly without losing her stern expression. You lose. It was on the popsicle stick. She listened carefully to the noise of the city. An abundance of different sounds billowed in front of the station on a Sunday afternoon. The roar of the trains arriving at the platform, the blaring horns of taxis, people walking and talking, the background music coming from the jumbotrons and from inside the Science City stores, the announcements telling people how to safely ride the escalators. The sounds were never allowed to end. Before one sound finished, another one would appear, creating a multi-layered discord that rang throughout the station. In the midst of all the discordant noise, Sana focused her attention only on the people's voices. Her mind blocked out all other sound, and their words soon became clear.
結局全部同じ犯人なのかな。
違うってニュースで言ってたぞ。手口が違いすぎる
怖くね？バンドの歌詞と一緒らしいじゃん。ファンタズムなんだ。こじつけて
今時ファンタズム知らないなんてさ。
じゃあ CD 貸せよ。
くれてるよな。
ほら、これ見てくれ。この前から
超ゲルのメタルのメタル超マジで着てるやつ初めて見た。
でもあれじゃね？これってニュージェネの犯人に
俺の顔が
殺してくださいってアピールしてるようなもんじゃん。
俺もいよいよ全国デビューか。
最近渋谷超怖くない？
マジ嘘に歩けねえもん。
入場
何欲しいよな。そういうのさ、殺される可能性あるじゃない。同じ女だし、キモい男とかだけ殺してほしいよね。私マジ応援する。
All right. Uh-huh. A short click of the tongue escaped from Santa's mouth, and she stopped listening soon after. There was nothing of value to be found in any of the noise. After all, noise was simply that, noise.
この視線の感覚、気のせいか。
This feeling of someone's gaze on me. Am I imagining it? Once more, Santa examined her surroundings. For a while now, she had been feeling a repulsive sensation, like cold fingers caressing her spine. A gaze being cast upon her by an unknown entity. One with which she was unable to pinpoint exactly what the source was. Santa pushed herself off the pillar she was leaning against. Then, as if she had just remembered something, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand.
外れか。
Looks like I lost, huh? Gradually growing more and more discontent, she wrinkled her brow and began to walk quickly towards the station.
あの空は
That sky.
どうしてあんなに泣きたくなるくらい青いのかな。
Why is it so blue that makes me want to cry? Because someone wished for it to be.
私は望んでない。
I didn't wish for it. No, but I did. Because this place is your image world, but at the same time, it is mine as well.
ね
Hey,
え、あの空はどこにあるの？
that sky. Where is it? Wherever you wish for it to be.
望んでいいの？
Is it okay for me to wish for it? Good morning. Come on, it's time to get up. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Sierra Town was calling me. Last night's episode of Blood Tune was awesome. Sierra Town played a huge part in it, and there was a super hot kiss scene. The animation quality was practically movie tier too.
起きたらおはようのキスしてあげるからさ。って私何言ってんだろ。バカバカ今の忘れて。
If you wake up, I'll give you a good morning kissy poo. Wait, what am I saying? Stupid, stupid. I didn't mean it, you dope. Sierra Town was calling me. Plus, she was saying such mo things that I couldn't not wake up. I tore the blanket off my body and got up from the sofa with a groan.
ちょっといつまで寝てるんさ。このボケナス。
Hey, just how long are you gonna sleep for, you big dum-dum?
こうなったら私のサムライコンデンサでぶん殴って起こし。
If you keep on sleeping, I'm gonna bash you with my samurai condenser and wake you up real good. The moment I turned off my alarm clock, the voice of Sierra Tan that had been echoing throughout the room disappeared.
おはよう、セーラ。
Morning, Sierra. Sierra alarm clock I had was very useful. If I didn't turn it off, the volume would slowly get louder and louder, and if I still didn't get up, an obnoxious buzzer sound would ring out. I wanted it to be Sierra Tan who woke me up in the morning, so I made it a point to wake up and turn it off before the buzzer. I'd only failed to do so once or twice so far. After all, being woken up by Sierra Tan was a great way to start the day. Waking up was the absolute worst. I played Vidya until dawn, and the couch had been extremely uncomfortable once I actually had gone to sleep. But having her to wake me up helped alleviate some of that pain. Today was a school day. I'd skipped a day last week, so my minimum attendance chart was really starting to fall apart. With the chart, I was only slated to go twice this week, but because of that deviation, I was stuck with having to go 3 times instead. I didn't want to go, but it'd be much worse if I didn't. If I missed any more days, I wouldn't be able to graduate. Then again, whether or not I graduated made no difference to me, to be honest. Just a moment ago, I'd been having a dream with Remy in it. It was a strange dream. One that felt terribly wistful. One that felt terribly lonesome. One that felt terribly sad. And one that felt terribly distant. Would Remy come to school today? I've been thinking about the day before yesterday constantly. I've been thinking about it so often that I'd forgotten to play ESO yesterday. There had been the appearance of Shogun and the delusion where every person in Shibuya disappeared, but I was barely giving either of those things any thought. It had to have just been a delusion of mine. There was no way Shogun could be such an old man, and the idea of people just disappearing from Shibuya or whatever was completely ridiculous. So there was no point worrying about it. It'd been a horribly realistic delusion, sure. But the fact that I'd allowed myself to fall for something so unrealistic so easily, and get all freaked out about it, was just embarrassing. But regardless, above all else, I was thinking about Remy, the girl I had been calling the demon girl until only a couple days ago. Most of what I'd felt back then was shaky and surreal, as if it were some sort of dream, but I could still vividly remember the sensation of Remy's body embracing my own. If she hadn't done that, I could have gone insane and lost myself completely. Why had Remy saved me? Maybe because we really were friends. I didn't have any memories of us being classmates now, let alone since first year, nor did I remember going to the movies with her along with Musumi-kun. But the way she treated me was definitely how you'd treat a real close friend. She even seemed like she'd been close to crying when she held me. That, at the very least, I didn't think was an act. That was the first time I'd ever seen a girl care about, let alone cry over an otaku freak like me. When she treated me like that, all of my fears and suspicions were blown away in an instant. In fact, it made me feel like I might fall in love with her. No, I obviously couldn't let myself do that. Confusion invaded every corner of my mind. How was I supposed to act around Remy from now on? Was Remy my ally or my enemy? Was Remy the new gen culprit? She'd saved me. That was an undeniable fact. But it was just as much of a fact that I'd seen her standing still as could be at the scene of the crucifixion, covered in blood. On my way to school, I stopped by Shoto Park. After what happened with Yua, I'd put a stop to my habit of eating breakfast there before going to school. There was no way I could feel even remotely relaxed when I thought that Yua could be watching me from anywhere. And even if I ignored that, if she came up to talk to me, she would start going off about her irritating, delusional schizo bullshit all over again. I didn't want anything to do with a girl like her. Yua was Rimi's underling. Sure, my original guess may have been incorrect, but that didn't mean Yua wasn't my enemy. It was still possible that Shogun was the boss of the whole thing, and Yua was one of his underlings. Either way, I knew I'd be better off staying as far away from her as I could. And yet, I found myself coming here today for some reason. I examined my surroundings carefully to make sure that I couldn't see Yua anywhere. And once I knew the coast was clear, I slowly sat down on my usual bench. I took a bite of the chocolate bread I'd just bought from the convenience store, then looked out at the pond. There was next to no wind, and the surface of the water was calm and serene. I could see the occasional shadows of carp-esque fish gliding through the murky water. The park was unusually empty today. It was a very quiet spot. As my gaze wandered across the park, I couldn't help but think about Rimi. To be honest, I'd been dreading going to school today. I knew I'd have to face her if I did. That was the real reason I was stalling at the park. I felt like I'd said a lot of awful things to her. And yet, the smile on her face never faltered, and she always treated me like I was a close friend. And I was sure that, when I went to school today, she would keep on doing that as if nothing ever happened. She'd smile and talk to me like we were friends, pretending that she didn't even care at all about what had happened in front of 107. It was hard to put it into words, but I felt a little bit annoyed by her constant cheerfulness. Yet at the same time, I also ended up feeling more cheerful for myself when I was with her. I wasn't sure how to act once I did run into her. It was true that I didn't think she was a demon anymore. But honestly, I didn't think of her as a friend either. Musumi-kun had said that she and I had been really close classmates for the past year and a half, but I didn't remember anything like that at all. Maybe it really was because of the person controlling me. But making my memories of Rimi, and only Rimi, disappear with pinpoint accuracy like that, there was no way that was possible. Upon entering the school building, I lowered my head even farther toward the ground. As was my usual MO, I kept close to the wall and walked slowly toward the staircase. My class was on the 3rd floor. Getting up there was a pretty big hassle. They could really use an escalator or something. When I reached the foot of the staircase, I spotted a girl climbing unsteadily up the stairs. She was dragging her right leg a little as she walked. Maybe she had twisted it. Her petite body swayed from side to side. She looked extremely unstable. As other students passed by her one after the other, the girl slowly continued to climb, exactly one step at a time. Watching her from below, I would be able to see her panties any second now. Alright, I wasn't expecting to see that. Shit. If I kept this up, I'd be labeled a total pervert. Last thing I needed was to go in front of a mirror and see myself as Bill Clinton or some shit. Oh shit, alright. With that thought in mind, I stepped onto the stairs in order to pass the girl, but right when I did... Oh! The girl caught the tip of her shoe on one of the steps and she immediately staggered. Oof. She then fell down so hard you could almost feel the crash sound effect. Fortunately, she'd ended up falling on the landing, so she hadn't fallen down the entire staircase. She was still down on her knees from the pain though, and was staying pretty still. Could this be a flag? Yeah, no way. Even if it was, calling out to her or anything even remotely similar would be impossible for me. So I hurriedly slipped past her. Sorry, but you should get some womanizer who's actually into 3D to help you. Someone like Masumi-kun. You really shouldn't rely on me. But the girl was staying curled up on the ground so motionlessly, I started to get a little worried. I was halfway up the stairs when I slowly turned back around to check on her. The girl was gripping onto the railing and trying her absolute hardest to stand back up. Her knee, she looked like a newborn fawn or something. Her knee was oozing blood. Maybe she scraped it. Oh. Her face, I'd seen it before. Wasn't she the girl who transferred into my class last week? What was her name again? I couldn't remember. Oh wow, she was crying. Did it hurt that badly? The fall had definitely been pretty bad, but not bad enough that she'd cry from it. There's nobody else willing to lend her a hand. After just barely managing to stand up, she bent forward and peered down at her knee. She must have been checking to see if she'd hurt it. The transfer student wiped away her tears, set down her bag on the spot, and started rummaging around inside it. What's she looking for? I wondered. Suddenly, she raised her hand above her head in a triumphant manner. Clasped in her hand was a Band-Aid. Our eyes met. The transfer student went red in surprise soon after, then hung her head. Regardless, she looked like she was okay, so I was sure she'd be fine without me. Thinking that, I hurriedly made my way to class. As per usual, I kept my head down and my gaze fixed on my toes. And while still remaining silent, I took my seat. When I sat down, I remembered that the transfer student had said something to me on the day she had transferred. I'd forgotten all about it after everything with Rimi, but I wondered what she'd meant.
Yo, Taku.
Yo, Taku. Still according to routine, Masumi called out to me. Maybe he didn't have any other friends besides me. He'd always talk to me and no one else, so I was starting to genuinely suspect that.
聞いてくれよ。昨日さ、怪しいおっさん2人が校長室に入ってくのを見たんだ。
Listen up. Okay, so, yesterday, I saw these two sketchy old dudes going into the principal's office.
Huh?
で、俺とリミトでこっそり盗み聞きしてみたらびっくりしたぜ。
And so, when I saw that, Rimi and I both went straight to try and eavesdrop on them, and we were totally shocked by what we heard.
その2人、刑事だったんだぜ。
Those two guys were detectives.
え？
What? Detectives?
なんか深刻そうに全校生徒の名簿とか見ててよ。
Yeah, they were going over the whole school roster. They looked real serious.
もしかしてニュージェネと関係あんのかな？
Maybe it's got something to do with New Gen. Maybe. the true new gen culprit was someone at this very school. I couldn't help it, but a face popped into my mind. Rimi's.
まあ盗み聞きしてたら見事にバレちゃったんだけどね。
Well, they did end up catching us when we were eavesdropping, though. I jumped. Speak of the devil, Jesus Christ. I felt my heart rate leap when I heard Rimi's voice invade the conversation. I couldn't look up. I was too nervous, but this was a completely different kind of nervousness than last week's.
あれはお前がドア勝手に開けたせいだぞ。分かってんのか？
That's because you decided it'd be a great idea to go and open the door. It's your fault.
しょうがないでしょ。本物の刑事さんって見るの初めてだったからちょっと興奮しちゃってつい。
Oh, come on. I couldn't help it. I'd never seen a real detective before, so I was obviously a little excited. And then I just kinda did it.
何をどうやったらついドアを開けるんだよ。
How the hell do you just kinda open a door?
おかげで俺らまで刑事から話を聞かれる羽目になったんだからな。
Thanks to you, we had to get questioned by those two dicks, too.
大臣ってば刑事さんに聞かれちゃまずいことでもあったの？
What's wrong, Dai-chin? Got something you don't want the big, scary detectives to hear?
そういうお前はどうなんだ？
Don't you?
さあね。
Gee, I wonder. Misumi-kun and Rimi were having a conversation with my desk sandwiched in between them. They were completely ignoring my existence. But to be honest, I was grateful for that. Even if Rimi did talk to me, I didn't have any faith that I'd be able to say anything back. I was hoping that the bell would ring before they got the chance to say anything to me, but when I glanced at the clock, I saw that there were still about 5 minutes until class started.
そういやタク、ここに来る途中で梢ちゃん見なかったか？
Oh yeah, that reminds me, Taku. Did you see Kozu-chan on the way here? Kozu-chan? Who's it?
ああ、そっか。
Oh, who?
どうせお前のことだから覚えてねえとは思ったけど、マジでそうだったんだな。
Oh, right. I figured you probably wouldn't remember because it's you and all, but you really don't, huh?
先週転校してきた子のことだよ。折原梢ちゃん。
The transfer student from last week, Orihara Kazuchan. Oh, so that was her name, Orihara Kazu.
階段で
On the stairs.
階段？
The stairs?
見た。
I saw her.
そっか。じゃあもうすぐ来るな。
Oh, that's so? Looks like I'll be right back. Misumi-kun's voice gave off an aura of intense enthusiasm. I hadn't seen him this energetic since a few days ago when he'd found out that Fess was from the next class over. In other words, I'd never seen him give his all for anything except for girls. Which reminded me that just last week, Misumi-kun had already gone to hit on the transfer student the moment she had arrived. You really are incorrigible. You've got a girlfriend and everything. I hope you're real proud.
なあ、梢ちゃんってマジ可愛いと思わねえ？
Hey, Kozu-chan's seriously cute, don't you think? He asked me something I had trouble answering. I moved my head down ambiguously, which he apparently took as a yes.
太郎！俺一目で気に入っちまったよ。なんか守ってやりたくなるんだよな。
Right? I fell for her at first sight. All I want to do is protect her.
男子みんなも同じ意見だよ。どいつも可愛いって言ってんだ。けどよ、女子の間じゃあんま評判良くねえんだよな。
All the boys agree. Every one of them says she's cute. The girls, on the other hand, can't stand her. She's got a real low reputation with them.
まだ転校してきたばっかだぜ。それなのに早くもうざいみたいな意見まで出てきてんだよ。
Which is crazy, since she only just transferred. Despite that, though, they're all super quick to call her annoying or whatever else.
このクラスの女子って性格悪いやつ多すぎだ。
This class has got way too many girls with shit personalities.
それって大臣のせいじゃないの？
Isn't that all kind of your fault, Daichin?
だいたいそのうざいって言ったのどうせ大臣の彼女でしょ？
I mean, isn't the main person who's calling her annoying your girlfriend?
ああ、そうだけど。
Yeah, I guess. What's your point?
そりゃあ彼女にしてみればうざいに決まってるよ。自分の彼氏が目の前で折原さんを口説きに行っちゃってたらさ。
My point is that of course she'd find her annoying. Any girl would be like that if they saw her boyfriend hitting on another girl right in front of them.
私でさえよく喧嘩売られるんだから。大輔君に近寄らないでって。しかも一人じゃなくて何人かから言われた。
Even I get into fights with her a whole bunch. She'll say stuff like, and she's far from the only girl who's told me that.
マジ？
You serious?
自覚なしか。少しは反省したら？
So you don't even know. Would it kill you to even do a little self-reflection?
いやー、モテる男は辛いぜ。
Nah. It's just way too tough out here for a popular dude. Just way too hard out here for a pimp.
これだよ。さすが女の敵。私フォローしてあげないからね。
And there it is. My fault for expecting anything different from you. The enemy of all women. I'm not gonna cover for you anymore, you got that?
あ、折原さん来た。
Oh, hey. Orihara-san's here.
なんか怪我してるみたいじゃね？
Wait, doesn't she kind of look hurt?
本当だ。どうしたんだろう。
You're right. I wonder what happened. She got hurt back when I saw her on the stairs. I obviously wasn't going to tell them that, though. I was trying to avoid talking to Rimi in any way possible.
俺、ちょっと行ってくれ。
I'm gonna go check up on her real quick. Misumi-kun ran up to where the transfer student was. Thanks to that, Rimi was the only one left standing close to my desk. Ah, Misumi-kun, please don't go. Rimi didn't say anything, but she didn't move away from my seat either. Considering the fact that I was hunched over so far on my desk that I could nearly sink my teeth into it, I couldn't see her expression. All I could see was her waist, but if that were true, then that would mean she had to be facing me. In other words, she was looking at me. We'll go paranoid. Or negative. Whatever. I had to say something. I had to say something. But would you two stop? What should I say? The more I thought about it, the more trapped I felt, and the more my mind went blank. Suddenly, Rimi sniffled. I was so surprised that I looked up out of reflex. She was crying. I didn't know why, but tears were falling from her eyes in large drops. was getting increasingly confused, but I stayed silent like an idiot, unable to think of anything else to do.
私
I know. Remy murmured in a shaky voice.
タクに嫌われちゃってるのかな。
I know you probably hate me, Taku.
ごめん。もう話しかけないから。
I'm sorry. I won't talk to you anymore.
ごめんね。私邪魔だよね。
I'm so sorry. I'm just bothering you, aren't I? Remy turned on her heel and quickly made her way out of the classroom. I wanted to yell after her. No, you're wrong. I wanted to say. I don't hate you at all. I just had no idea what to do or say. I waffled over whether or not I should chase after her, but in the end, I couldn't leave my seat. If I did chase after her, what would I even say? Could I even say anything? Seriously, what would I even say? I like you? I'm glad we're friends? I couldn't do that. I didn't know her. It was true that I had been saved thanks to her. But to me, she was still some mystery person who had appeared completely out of nowhere. I know you probably hate me, was what she'd said, but I couldn't tell her whether or not that was true. After all, I didn't have the memories to help me decide whether I hated her or liked her. Tisk, tisk. That was when Nasumi-kun, who was supposed to have been with the transfer student, came back. He gave me a sympathetic look.
泣かせちまったな。
You made her cry, huh?
あいつ前に俺に相談してきてたんだぜ。
You know, she asked me for advice a while back.
タクのことが好きなんだけど全然気づいてもらえないって。
I've got a big crush on Taku, but I know he's never gonna notice me. What should I do? That's what she said. What the hell? When had that happen? I held my head and shook it violently.
だってわからないんだ。さっぱりわからないんだよ。
But I don't get it. I don't get any of this at all.
わかるかわからないか。そんな理屈の話じゃねえだろ。
It's not about getting it or not. Stuff like this ain't about logic.
ま、結局お前は一生ニートやってろってこった。
Well, guess you're gonna end up being a NEET for the rest of your life. After that, I didn't get the chance to talk to Remy all the way until I graduated. Even when we saw each other in class, we would both avoid each other. And then, after graduation, I became a NEET, just like Musumi-kun had predicted. And I never saw Remy again for the rest of my life. So that was what the bad end would probably be like. Pretty damn depressing. But it was still true that I didn't know anything about Remy. Like I thought, the only option I had was to just keep quiet and not do anything.
タク
Taku. Remy, who had been silent the entire time, finally called out to me, albeit hesitantly. But I couldn't respond due to how sudden it was. To her, it probably felt like I was ignoring her. In my head, I knew I couldn't keep acting like this, but in the end, I still couldn't get myself to do anything.
大丈夫
Are you okay? This time, I nodded frantically. It probably made me look pretty suspicious.
そうだったらいいんだ。
Okay. Glad to hear it. Remy's voice was gentle. I could hardly believe it, but she seemed like she was going to continue patiently being with me, even though I was being silent. "Are you okay?" was what she'd said. I felt a sudden urge to ask her something. I wanted to ask. Back when we met in front of the 107, what did it look like to you? Considering the fact that she hadn't mentioned anything in particular, it seemed like she didn't know anything about the people temporarily disappearing from the streets of Shibuya, nor anything about the wheelchair-bound Shogun. Which would probably mean it had just been one of my delusions after all. That was why I wanted to ask her. But I didn't think I'd be able to look up and do so after all this time. Either way, I couldn't do it today. I couldn't even prepare myself to ask her. So, next time then, I'd ask her the very next time I came to school. Yeah, I should probably organize the questions I wanted to ask her before then.
あれ
Huh?
ねえタク、折原さんがこっち来たよ。
Look, Taku. Orihara-san's coming this way. The transfer student? Why was she coming over here? Was she going to come down on me for not helping her on the stairs earlier? But she didn't seem like the type of person to do that. Or maybe she wasn't coming up to me, but she actually wanted Rimi for something. The transfer student came up to Rimi and then stopped. She didn't say anything. What the hell? As long as Rimi was here, I couldn't raise my head. Transfer student's toes were fidgeting, but she still didn't try to say anything.
折原さん、どうしたの？
Orihara-san, what's wrong? For some reason, the new student timidly then placed a single bandage on the edge of my desk. It was a fancy one, with a picture of that weird character, Garo Froggy, emblazoned on it.
Huh?
Was she giving it to me? How do I react? This Orihara Kazoo girl was kind of weird. He should be into weird.
折原さん、泣かないで。
Oh no, no. Orihara-san, don't cry. What? Was she crying? Why was she crying? Was it because I didn't say anything? But the transfer student hadn't said anything to me either.
タクは怒ってるわけじゃないと思うよ。
I don't think Taku's mad or anything. Rimi swooped in to cover for me. Come to think of it, that was a little bit odd. I didn't know next to anything about Rimi, and yet, she knew a lot about me.
彼ってあまり人と目を合わせようとしないの。引っ込み思案ってやつ。
He just doesn't look people in the eye all that often. He's an introvert like that.
だからそんなにガチガチに緊張しなくてもね。
So there's no need to be all shaky and nervous, okay? Huh?
私にも絆創膏くれるの？ありがとう。
Huh? Are you giving me a band-aid too? Thank you. With that, the transfer student bowed her head deeply to Rimi, and then she sped her way back to her seat. It was almost like she was running away or something.
なんだかよくわかんないんだけど、タク、その絆創膏もらってあげるべきだと思う。
I have no idea what just happened, but I think you should probably take the band-aid, Taku. Why had she given it to me?
梢ちゃん、無口だよな。
Kozu-chan, a girl of few words, ain't she? I got the feeling Misumi-kun had come back.
転校初日に俺が校内を案内したんだけどよ。
I gave her a tour of the school on her first day.
うわ早くも手出したんだ。
Wow, you were real quick to get your hands on her.
まだ出してねえっつうの。
Hold on, I haven't done anything yet.
んで、まあ1時間ぐらいかけてあちこち回ったんだけど、もう俺一人で延々と喋り続けたよ。あん時はさすがにじーっと疲れたぜ。
Anyway, on that tour we spent about an hour, give or take, running all over the place. And I was the only person talking the whole time. As you can imagine, I got pretty worn out.
しかもすぐ泣きべそかく。
Oh yeah, and she's pretty quick to cry too.
そうそう。今も急に泣き出したから何が起きたかと思ってあたふたしちゃった。
Yeah, she really is. She started crying out of nowhere just a second ago, so I got all freaked out trying to figure out what the heck even happened.
そんだけピュアなんだよ。
Just goes to show how innocent she really is.
なたく、お前ならわかるだろう。梢ちゃんの仕草一つ一つの可愛さってのがよ。
Hey Taku, you get it, don't ya? You know how cute everything she does is, don't ya?
お前流に言うなら萌えってやつだ。
If I were to put it in neat speak, she's mo as all hell.
なんだ、クソでも我慢してんのか。
What's up? You need to take a shit? I shook my head from side to side as hard as I could.
たく、さっきからちっとも喋ってくれないんだ。
Taku, you haven't said a word for a really long time now. Yeah, that's because you're here. Wasn't ready for that. I'd never talked to a friend who was also a girl all friendly before. And again, I'd never had a single female friend before. Not throughout my entire life.
でもさ、今折原さんと話してみてなんとなく思ったんだけど。
When I tried to talk to Orihara-san, I was hit with this feeling.
彼女と話してるとなんだか疲れちゃいそうかもなんて。
I just couldn't help but think. It kind of wore me out, I guess.
女子ってのはマジで同性に対して容赦ねえな。ま、梢ちゃんは俺が守るからいいけどな。
Girls really are ruthless towards their own gender, huh? Then again, I'll be the one to protect her, so it doesn't really matter.
ほんの数十秒前に大地も相手するの疲れたって言ってなかった？
Oh, come on. Didn't you say less than a minute ago that hanging around her wore you out, too?
うっせ。
Shut it.
梢ちゃんはタクと同じ匂いがするぜ。ほっとけねえって感じ？
Kozu-chan gives off the same vibes as Taku. Makes me not want to leave him alone if I can help it, you know?
それはわかるかも。
Oh, I guess I sort of understand that. They seem like decent friends. The sound of the bell told me that all the classes were done for the day. The second it went off, I packed up my things, got up from my desk, and left the classroom. I couldn't stand the subtle difference I felt between me and Rimi for a second longer, so I wanted to get out of the classroom ASAP. Besides, I also had to stop by Manga Darake today. In the end, I hadn't been able to say a single word to Rimi. I'd had several chances to talk to her, but just like this morning, I'd kept my mouth locked shut the entire time. I might have screwed up by doing that. It would make it even more difficult to talk to her the next time I saw her. I was sinking deeper and deeper into the thick swamp that was trying to figure out how the hell to act around Rimi. Oh, big bro. Just as I was about to leave the school building, I was hit with the voice of a certain irritating person. Nanami came running up to me, holding a trash can in her hands. She must have been in the middle of taking it out. Unfortunately for me, the bitch had spotted me. I tried to ignore her and speed my way out of there, but just like usual, Nanami refused to let that happen. The hem on my uniform was pulled tightly from behind.
妹見て逃げるなって何度言えばわかるの？
How many times do I have to tell you not to run away from me?
なんだよ。
What do you want?
なんだよじゃないわ。
Don't give me that.
お兄が逃げるからナナもつい追いかけちゃうんじゃん。
Don't you realize I have to chase after you whenever you run away? It's kind of annoying. Okay, then don't chase after me if you don't need anything.
相変わらず家に電話かけてこないし、まあナナはもう諦めたけど、どうせお兄が真面目に連絡入れてくるとは思えないもんね。
You haven't been calling home at all, which is nothing new, but whatever. I've already given up on trying to get you to do it. I doubt you'll ever at this point. Wow, she actually understood me for once. Then again, I didn't know how she wouldn't, being my sister and all. Even though I had no need of the slightest for a 3D1.
というわけで、これからも定期的にナナがお兄の部屋に様子見に行くから。
So that's why I'm gonna have to keep coming to your room every now and then to check up on you.
感謝してよね。
You should be grateful. Damn it. Of course it'd come to this. If only I could somehow be freed from the curse of my obnoxious little sister. Hell, even though it never happened, I at least deserve some form of compensation for putting up with her. I thought about that kind of thing daily. Oh, that was it. This was my chance to put my plan from earlier into action. If I was lucky, it might even work as a modest form of revenge. I checked my surroundings, then I started walking toward the courtyard, signaling for Nanami to follow me.
何？
Huh? What is it?
ちょっと来てくれ。
Just come with me.
なんで？なんかあるの？
Why? What's going on? She was so unbelievably annoying. Was she incapable of following me or something? What a fucking idiot.
ナナミに大事な頼みがある。
Nanami, I have an important favor to ask you.
え？頼み？お兄が？なのに？
Huh? A favor? From you? Nanami's eyes went wide.
珍しいじゃん。お兄が頼み事なんて。
Wow, that doesn't happen often. You never ask me to do stuff.
とにかく黙ってついてこいって。
Just shut up and follow me.
あ、ちょっと待ってよ。
Ah, wait up. There weren't many people in the courtyard. During lunchtime, the place was always crowded with students eating lunch, but the only people who'd bother coming here after school were from the gardening club or whatever.
で、頼みって？
Okay, so what's the favor? Nanami lowered the trash can she was carrying to the ground, then gave a big grin as she puffed out her chest.
あ、条件はマクで汚りね。その条件飲んでくれるんなら、本当は嫌だけど、お兄の頼み聞いてあげる。
Oh, but I've got one condition. You've got to treat me to McD afterward. As long as you do that, I'll do whatever you want, even though I don't really wanna. Every little damn thing she did pissed me off. I couldn't believe she actually wanted me to pay her back for this. Didn't help that I'd already treated her to McD before, too. Forget it.
わかった。おごる。
Fine. I'll treat you.
え、本当？今日の鬼、いつもと違うね。
Huh? Really? Wow, you're like a totally different person today. Well, yeah, because I was lying. So, for being a liar. SOZ for being a liar. And with that, I handed Nanami my cell phone. I then asked her to call the prank caller whose number was stored in my call history.
着歴の番号にかける？相手は誰？
You want me to call a number off your history? Who are they?
ネットの知り合い。
Someone I know from online. Nanami was tilting her head with a suspicious expression on her face, so I quickly told a lie that would seem plausible to her.
どうして7がかけるの？
So, why am I doing it?
かければわかる。
You'll know if you call them.
なんか企んでない？
You're not plotting something, are you? Oh my good. Oh my god. Shut the fuck up. All you have to do is just shut up and do what I say. If you can't even do that, then just go home. I have no use for you.
じゃあもうお前には頼まない。
Fine. Then I won't ask you to do it. I went to snatch back the cell phone, but Nanami pulled her hand back, evading me.
わかったって。かけるよ。かければいいんでしょ？
Okay, I'll call them. That's all I have to do, right?
ほんと、わがままなお兄だな。
You really are selfish, you know. Yeah, you should talk. Choking back my anger, I watched with bated breath as Nanami dialed the number in question. Nanami, blissfully unaware, put the cell phone to her ear and waited for them to answer. I noticed that on the hand she was holding the cell phone with, she was wearing a yellow bangle. That was the one I'd given her, wasn't it? Then again, it was more something she just decided to appropriate rather than me actually giving it to her. She even wore it when she went to school. Did she really like it that much? Even though it's just some cheap-ass bangle I'd gotten for free. Nanami really did have no taste at all. Not that I could really speak for anyone else though. This didn't matter at all right now. Anyway, who was gonna answer the phone? Would it be some scary DQN piece of garbage? Best case scenario, it'd just be a prank and had nothing to do with Shogun or Yua.
あ、もしもし。
Hello? Someone must have picked up, so Nanami called out as she covered her receiver with her hand. Only to raise her eyebrows soon after. She then thrust the phone back in my direction.
鬼。
Big bro.
なんだ
What?
なんだじゃないよ。現在使われてませんって言ってるよ。
Don't give me what? It's saying the number's not in use right now.
え
Huh? I snatched the phone from Nanami and put it to my ear, and what I heard was,
おかけになった電話番号は現在使われておりません。番号をご確認の上、もう一度おかけ直しください。
saying the number's disconnected, no longer in service. She was right. I guess that meant it really had been a prank, huh? It was a prank where you'd call a bunch of random numbers simultaneously over a couple of days, and when a prank was over, both the number and the phone were destroyed, or something like that. Either way, it was a pretty large-scale prank. But, meh, didn't matter to me either way. I I knew now that the mysterious call had been nothing more than a prank, and nothing else mattered anymore.
ねえ、一体何なの？
Okay, well, what the heck was up with that?
もうお前用なし。
I don't need you anymore. What? Leaving Nanami standing there, I started to walk off, but it didn't take long for her to chase after me. She wants
どういう
McD.
ことか説明してよ。
Wait just a sec. What was that all about? Shut up already.
お前掃除中だろ。
You were taking out the trash, weren't you?
ゴミ箱を置きっぱなしだぞ。
You left the trash can over there.
あ、
Oh, right.
ね、でも説明聞いてないもん。
But you still haven't told me what's going on.
僕は帰る。
I'm going home. Without dealing with Nanami, I walked quickly to the school gate with her right on my tail.
お兄、じゃあマクディおごる約束だからね。ちゃんと覚えといてよ。
Fine. Just remember you promised to treat me to McD. You better not forget.
知るか。
Like I care.
ちょっと、嘘ついたの？
Hey, did you lie to me?
まあな。
Maybe.
うう。
Nanami stopped dead in her tracks, looking pretty upset. But I kept right on moving.
お兄のバカ！
You big jerk. She yelled out in a voice loud enough to echo throughout the entire area. Fed up with her, I went to turn around and saw her glaring at me with her hands on her hips.
お兄なんて、携帯の電磁波の影響で脳みそスカスカにされて死んじゃえ！
A jerk like you should get their brains shriveled up by cell phone radiation and croak. Shit. Thanks to Nanami's screeching, more eyes were looking our way, even though I made it to a point to stand out as little as possible at school. My sister was the most obnoxious shithead of all time. Not giving a damn about what Nanami had said, I ran off toward the school gate. It was best to retreat in times like this. Jerk! Nanami's voice could still be heard even after I passed through the school gate, making me feel completely and utterly drained. Azuma Matasama. I don't know. Butchering it. He was one of my favorite artists. They were ultra famous, and their fans would always form long lines at every one of their events. I'd heard that the new Blood tune, Dushinshi, that had come out this summer had sold out in no time flat. I'd wanted to go too, but all the events where it was being sold at had been way too crowded, to the point where it had been way too much for me. And because of that, I'd found myself tearfully giving up. It'd been naive of me to think Manga Dorake would be safe just because they had had consignment sales. There had indeed been some consignment sales, but they had been annihilated in practically an instant. On various online auctions, the premium price was set at tens of thousands of yen. All scalpers should fire. Regardless, with all that in mind, I thought that it was probably impossible to get my hands on it. However, just yesterday while I was surfing the ad channel, I just so happened to see that a new issue had been recently restocked at Manga Dorake, which is why I'd headed for it immediately.
神様、奇跡を起こしたまえ。
Good. Please grant me a miracle. I prayed to the heavens in front of the store, and then I stormed inside. scanned a Dushinshi section with my eyes as wide as dinner plates. I went back and forth down the aisle, searching over and over again to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I couldn't find it. No. Was it already sold out? I casually observed the cashier. It was a girl. She wasn't very cute, but she did seem friendly. I never even once used the hyper-advanced technique known as asking the clerk about whether or not they had a certain item in stock. Yeah, that's super advanced. I usually don't do that either. The reason was, of course, that I didn't have the courage to do so. Not only that, but the title of Azuma Matasuma's new book was Sierra Tan Cosplay Gone Wild. So yeah, asking about it was completely and utterly impossible. Excuse me, miss, but do you have a copy of Azuma Matasuma's Sierra Tan Cosplay Gone Wild? If I asked a female clerk something like that, I'd no doubt be labeled as a pervert. I knew that for a fact. Thank you very much. In the end, I simply gave up on asking the clerk anything and exited the store dejectedly. I guess I'll go home. Or maybe I should go to the internet cafe. Flipping between the two as I walked, a sword I had seen before flashed past the edge of my vision. It was a sword with a distinctive two-pronged blade, the one the girl B, the girl who had called herself Sina, had been carrying around the city. In the crowded center guy, the tip of the sword jutted above the heads of the people walking down the street. As it got closer to me, I hurriedly took refuge in a nearby arcade. When I peered out from the shadows, it didn't take long for Sina herself to appear, the sword resting on her shoulder. Wearing an expression that was just as terrifying as ever, she walked quickly towards the station. She didn't seem to have noticed me. But even then, after having experienced the humiliation play that was lugging around a sword like hers, the bold way that Sina walked around without a care in the world impressed me. Was she not embarrassed to hold a huge sword like that? I mean, she had to have been questioned by a police officer at least once. No way she hadn't. As I pondered that, Sina's figure got farther and farther away. Where do they sell badass D-swords like the one she has, I wondered. The one I'd gotten a hold of didn't glow, nor did it have a badass shape, so I wasn't exactly satisfied with it. In comparison to the sword Sina was carrying, mine was far less impressive in terms of design. The entire reason behind me getting a D-sword was to use it as a protective charm. Back at Scramble Crossing, I've been trembling in fear and wished for something I could rely on. After Remy had shown up, I had become slightly more stable, but the situation surrounding me was not getting any better. I still had a lot of enemies, such as Shogun, Yua, etc. What was the reason why I wanted to get my hands on a D-sword that looked way stronger than the one I actually had? Of course, there was also the collector's spirit found in every otaku. As if drawn to Sina's sword, I've been staggering over towards Scramble Crossing without realizing it. Oh god, I bit my lip. I didn't want to be out in front of the station. I would reluctantly go to Center Guy or school or whatever because I had things I had to do there, but if I could help it, I preferred not going anywhere near them. Having a crowd of total strangers standing around me made me feel as if any escape route had been stolen away. Just the illusion of that made it hard to breathe. Unsurprisingly, the area in front of the station was infested with people. I was starting to feel more and more sick, so I opted to look down at the ground to try to hold back the nausea a bit. Because of that, the next time I looked up, I realized I'd lost sight of the conspicuous sword. It looked like she'd been walking toward the Hachiko statue, but right then, the light above Scramble Crossing turned green. A sea of people rushed into the intersection from various directions. It became pretty chaotic. A whole host of people walking every which way, and they did it all without even so much as bumping into each other. When I saw something like that, I realized how unrealistic the empty Scramble Crossing I'd seen in my delusion the other day really was. There probably wasn't even a single second in the entire city where there were no people in this place. What was I even trying to accomplish by chasing after Santa in the first place? I hadn't even been able to ask the friendly Manga Dorake employee whether they had had something in stock. So how exactly was I supposed to talk to someone who looked unfriendly and scary looking like Santa? Besides, she might have been my enemy. I didn't know what she'd do to me if I carelessly followed her around without any form of protection. What was wrong with me? I should just go home. I finally decided on that, but right as I was about to turn around. Oh, I noticed a white chain laying on the street. I couldn't see the end of it because it was concealed by the legs of various pedestrians, but it seemed to be stretching from where I was standing all the way to the other side of Scramble Crossing. What the hell? It was a ridiculously long chain. Was it for construction or something? But there was no evidence of construction going on anywhere. I couldn't believe they left a chain lying around like this. Was this the location where they're shooting at some movie or TV show? Nah, they wouldn't be filming at a time as crowded as this. Okay, then did someone throw it away? A chain this long? It'd already be hard enough just to bring it this far out here. Regardless, it was definitely going to get in the way of people and cars. Tilting my head in confusion, I examined my surroundings to see how people around me were reacting to it. I thought it would be dangerous if somebody caught their leg on it, but not a single person was paying any attention to it. I rubbed my eyes and tried looking at it one more time, thinking that it might be an optical illusion or something, but the chain was still there. I didn't have the courage to touch it though. It creeped me out too much. It wasn't a cheap looking plastic one. It was an extremely sturdy looking iron chain. How long had this thing been left sitting here? If these were normal circumstances, I'd think it was some kind of trap. After which, I would have run away in fear, suspecting that something terrifying might have been waiting for me. But now, for whatever reason, I couldn't help but wonder where the chain led. My mind was overtaken by a compulsive obsession that told me I had to follow this chain. I crossed the Scramble Crossing before the light turned red, bumping into several pedestrians as I did. At the end of the continuous chain was an old, dark green train car that was sitting next to a Hachiko statue. The wheels had been removed, so it was closer to a monument or an exhibit rather than a functional train car. You were supposed to be able to enter it freely, too. The white chain was extending from the open door to the inside of the train. There were tons of people parked in front of the Hachiko, but no one was paying any attention to the chain. They didn't show any signs that they were even aware of it. As well as that, there were no signs of any people on the train at all. With a gulp, I peered inside the train car. In that moment, I realized it was a trap. I couldn't believe it myself, which was why I hadn't suspected it at all before. The car appeared to be empty, but there was the figure of a single person inside. Oe Siena was sitting cross-legged on a burgundy train seat. Her sharp gaze was fixed firmly on me. For some reason, she was holding a light blue popsicle in her hand. That was a Crunchy-kun, right? Forget it. I couldn't care less about Crunchy-kuns right now. More importantly, the gigantic D-sword she had been carrying was mysteriously nowhere to be found. I wondered where she had even managed to put the thing, with how huge it was and all. In place of the sword was a white chain, coiling around one of her legs. Which reminded me that, back when I'd first met her in the Center Guy, she had said something about finding her in a train car in front of the station. This must have been what she meant. Was she the one who'd put this chain here? We'll go green. Could she really have been lugging around such a long chain? It looked like it weighed over 10 kilograms. Not only that, but it had to have been over 50 meters long. I had no idea what was up with this girl. She was entirely unknown to me. She wasn't normal. Could she be Shogun? Feeling scared now, I moved to run away without saying anything. Only for a sharp voice to strike me right then. Come in. I automatically stopped dead in my tracks. Thoughts ran through my head frantically. If I ran away, what would she do? Would she swing her D-sword at me while she chased me? When I tried to envision it happening, it freaked me out way too much, so I hurriedly shook the delusion out of my head. Conversely, what if I was to just walk straight in instead? She would get a much better impression of me, and maybe then she wouldn't be so violent. Maybe she'd even be in a good enough mood that she'd be interested in selling her D-sword to me. I didn't think that she'd give it up that easily, but maybe I could at least get her to tell me where she bought it from. On top of that, she seemed to have been waiting for me. In other words, that meant she had taken some form of interest in me. She looked scary, but as was often the case with tsundere types, she might have actually been pretty nice in reality. That could just be wishful thinking, though. Then again, it It wasn't like I was gonna get cold just because I went inside. Surely that wasn't true. We were right in the middle of Shibuya, after all, right in front of the Hachiko statue. There were tons of people surrounding us. Killing me in public, in front of all of them, would have been... I took a single deep breath, gathered my resolve, and then I stepped onto the train.
あれ
I suddenly realized the bundle of chain that had been at Sina's feet just a moment ago had disappeared without a trace. I thought that she'd moved it somewhere, but there had been no sound to indicate that, and she was still sitting in the same seat she'd been sitting on the entire time. Even if she had moved it, where the hell would she moved it to? I didn't see it anywhere on the train.
エラーはどこにあった？
Where was the error? Sina, completely unconcerned with how lost I was, asked me something intelligible yet again.
だから私をつけてきたんじゃないのか？
You tailed me, so I'm assuming you found one. As I shook my head left and right in confusion, Sina's expression became increasingly stern. She then eventually looked away from me, let out a small sigh, and took a bite of her popsicle. Freed from her sharp gaze, I nearly sank down to the floor once again. Talk about looks that could kill. I would have sat down on one of the seats if I could have, but when I realized that she might have said something to me if I did, I couldn't bring myself to.
お前が私をつけてきているのには気づいていた。
I knew you were following me.
私が作ったエラーが見えていただろう。
You saw the error I created, didn't you?
だからエラーって何？
Oh, what are you talking about?
鎖だ。白い鎖。
The chain. The white chain. If that was what she meant, then yeah, I'd seen it. I'd followed the weird thing all the way here after all.
でもどこにもない。消えたよ。
But I don't know where it is. It disappeared.
消した。私の妄想だからな。
I made it disappear. It was my delusion, after all. Delusion? What was she talking about?
じゃあ剣は？
Then, what about the sword?
お前も持っているだろう。
You have one, don't you? Excuse me? No, I don't have one. How could I? This wasn't going well. I could barely get a word out.
それより、
More importantly,
お前は何者なんだ？
who are you?
見えているみたいだけど。
Seems like you can see.
は？
What? Santa glanced at me, then jerked her chin toward the window.
この窓の外に何が見える？
What do you see outside this window? People. Lots of people. It felt like there were even more people than before. Felt like I was gonna get a headache just from looking at them. There were people with their heads glued to their cell phones, people smiling over phone calls, people standing and staring at the stream of people. Practically everything I saw out the window was people standing around waiting for other people. I mean, if there were so many people here, why hadn't anyone come into the train since I'd gotten on?
完璧な世界がそこにあると思うか？
Do you believe that there's a perfect world out there?
あるはずがない。エラーは確かに存在する。
There isn't. There can't be. Errors will always exist.
すべてのものは人も含めて電気仕掛けだからな。
Because everything, people included, is an electronic device. What kind of Chuini plotline was that? Jokes aside, I also thought about similar things pretty often. And I wasn't trying to say that Chuini plotlines were bad or anything. After all, the world was overflowing with books, movies, and anime that were nothing but Chuini insanity. Why was it that a writer or a movie director or whoever else could come up with Chuini plot lines like that, and it was all well and good, but when amateurs like me did it, everyone made fun of us. The world's greats had all been Chuini bios. Just think about it. The Wright brothers had genuinely thought that they could fly through the sky 100 years ago. Napoleon had boasted that the word impossible is not in my dictionary. That was why Chunibyos, whatever, weren't something to be mocked. It was the path that all the world's greats had taken. But my question was, why had this girl suddenly started spouting all this Chuini shit at me?
何を見ているかじゃない。何を見せられているか。
It isn't what you're seeing, it's what's being shown to you.
人は体の外からの情報を五感によって得ているけど、その受け取る情報のおよそ 80% は視覚から入ってくるんだ。
People acquire information from outside the body by utilizing the five senses, but about 80% of the information we receive comes from sight.
そして視覚から得られた映像はパルス信号となって視神経を通り脳に送られる。
The images obtained from sight are converted into impulses, signals that are then sent to the brain via optic nerve. Just like a telephone, I thought to myself absentmindedly. A telephone converted your voice into electrical signals, and then sent that information to a distant location.
電話か。似ていると言えなくもない。
A telephone, huh? You could say it's similar to that. Had she just read my mind? No, there was no way. Had I been mumbling to myself without realizing it again?
VR 技術を知っているか。
Do you know what VR technology is? What, virtual reality? Of course, I didn't actually answer her aloud.
ビジュアルリビルディング。
Visual rebuilding. Huh? I was wrong? I'd never heard of that.
アメリカの精神生理学分野で研究が行われている技術だ。
It's a technology currently being researched in the field of psychophysiology in America.
生まれながらに目が不自由な人でも目の前にある景色がちゃんと見えるようになる。ビデオカメラのような映像機器を介しています。
With this technology, even those who have been blind from birth will be able to accurately view anything that the eyes can naturally perceive. This is made possible by using video equipment such as video cameras.
どうやってという顔をしているな。だが仕組みとしては単純な話だ。
That look on your face tells me you're wondering how exactly, but the way it works is simple.
ビデオカメラが映した映像も脳を流れる神経パルスもどちらも突き詰めれば電気による信号なんだぞ。
Images provided by a video camera and the nerve impulses traveling through the brain are both essentially electrical signals.
要は神経パルスにコンバートできる技術さえあればいい。
And, in short, all that's needed for the brain to interpret those images is technology that can convert the signals into nerve impulses.
すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
There have already been successful tests, to the point where the research team behind it have already obtained a patent for it. It was patented? Seriously? I thought that it was just a fairly hardcore delusion with an impressive amount of depth and detail behind it. but claiming there was a full-on patent was taking it way too far.
その特許から読み取れることがある。
Something can be inferred from that patent. Sana, who had been looking out the window the whole time, turned to face me. She slowly crossed her legs.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら、
If it's possible to convert specific information into nerve impulses,
人の五感すべて、さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
wouldn't it be possible to control all 5 of the senses, and even the free will of the people itself? Even though it was right in front of Shibuya Station, it was strangely quiet on the train. It felt as if I had been deprived of sound itself. It was obviously an illusion, but I couldn't help but remember the delusion I'd had several days ago of the deserted Shibuya. As I thought about it, I couldn't take my eyes off the crowd moving outside the window.
さっき言ったように、人は電気磁石だ。
Like I said before, people are electronic devices.
脳だけじゃなく、全身に張り巡らされている神経にも電気が通っている。
That don't just mean the brain either. The entire body has nerves with electricity running through them.
つまり、肉体的な動きまでも操れるということになるんだ。理論的にはな。
In other words, even our bodies and actions can be controlled as well. Theoretically, that is. This girl. I was taken aback. This girl was even more delusional than both me and you combined. What she was saying sounded logical, but it was clearly a total pipe dream.
事実、特許を取得した研究チームもその方向へと研究内容をシフトしている。
In fact, the research team that acquired the patent is shifting the research in that very direction.
あまりに危険すぎる内容だったから、アメリカ大統領が歯止めをかけようとして行政命令を出したくらいだ。
The contents were so dangerous that the President of the United States issued a memorandum to try and prevent any further research. How much of what she was saying was actually true?
いかなる機関であろうと、政府との事前合意なしに人体の機密の研究を行うことを禁じる。それを支援することも同様である。とな。
It said, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule. Sana looked downward and clasped her hands, resting on her knees tightly.
だが世の中は腐った連中ばかりだ。
But the world is full of nothing but corrupt factions.
倫理を無視して自分の利益のためだけに他者を平気で犠牲にするような連中がな。
Factions that have no regard for morality and will sacrifice others without a second thought for their own personal gain.
ヘドがいる。
It makes me sick. After she finished voicing her disgust, she stuck the last chunk of nearly melted crunchy kun in her mouth, then suddenly stood up. I reflexively started to shrink back, only to run into the wall behind me.
無知は罪だ。知らない方が幸せなこともあるという人間もいるが、そんなのはただの甘えだ。
Ignorance is a sin. People claim ignorance is a bliss, but that's simply naive.
世界を疑え。仕組みを知れ。
Doubt the world, study its mechanisms.
この世界は完璧じゃない。
This world is imperfect. She was coming toward me. Thinking she might hit me, I tried to shield my face with my arm, but in the end, she slipped right past me without doing anything.
お前の見ている景色は本物か？
Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Without looking at me, she murmured that as we passed each other, and then she promptly exited the train by herself. I stared out the window at Sina as she walked away. Without looking back at me even once, she quickly disappeared into the sea of people. And then, I had absolutely no clue as to what she had been trying to tell me. The only thing I took from it was that Sina despised the world. Typical Chunibyu. From my point of view, though, it sucked ass to have her shoot her poisonous Denpa bullshit at me without even letting me get a word in. Her tone of voice alone made me feel like I was being lectured. The way she talked was often a Mo characteristic when it came to 2D, but in reality, it only served to make her feel even more like a total Deku. But the fact that she hadn't attacked me was a relief. A surprise considering that, for some reason, she always gave off the aura that she was just raring to slap anyone and everyone. I wanted to take a breather after that, so I sat down on the seat where Santa had been sitting before. Immediately following that, a Deku-looking couple suddenly came into the car. After that came a trio of people that were obviously Deku Kogyaras, then an older middle-aged man, and then a young businessman wearing a suit. The train car had become claustrophobic in the blink of an eye. Before Santa had left, no one had even tried to enter the car, so where the hell had they all come from? The voices of the Deku couple and the Kogyaras were way too loud, so I quickly got out of there while telling them all to go to hell in my head. Neidhart. So, yeah. That's how I ended up getting tangled up with an IRL Chuni chick. Grim. Okay, asshole. This time you have pissed me off. Neidhart. Grim, seriously, Lord Neidhart. You're always saying shit like, oh, I don't give a fuck about 3D, but you've been getting real nice and close with a bunch of 3D girls recently, haven't you? You even said earlier that one of them broke into your house. I don't care who you ask, that's straight out of an eroge. You plunged straight into your once in a lifetime chance to be popular. Alright, listen well. I'll admit that I have indeed amassed quite a number of opportunities to speak with cute females. However, every single IRL one is a fucking mental case. You try being on the receiving end of their brain-melting Denpa attacks. The sheer scale of schizo, it's legitimately horrifying. Shiver, shiver. Grim, okay. I truly am sorry. Neidhart, don't worry about it. Even after I've gotten back home, I'd still been somewhat interested in what Santa had told me. Of course, I didn't think that what she had told me was true, but I was pretty sure that I'd be able to confirm it for myself if I did a little bit of research into the patent and memorandum specifically. So, with Grim's help, I started searching the internet. I was also able to get one of Grim's friends who lived in America to help out as well. But even with all that help, I still didn't think we were going to find anything. In this day and age, you couldn't trust anyone without a source. Shio was a friend of Grim that I'd mentioned earlier. He lived in America and spoke fluent English. Grim. Yo, I just got a message from Shio. Neidhart, let me guess. BS, right? That stupid fucking mental case. She had to have just been making a fool out of me because she didn't think I could understand English. Don't underestimate the power of the internet. Consider yourself owned, Grim.
Eh?
It exists, apparently. Huh? It exists. What did? Grim. The guy went out of his way to steal it for us. Whatever that. I don't know. Anyway, let me help it. Neidhart, is this just more bait?
もしかしてマジなのか？
Grim. Man, you don't trust me at all, do you? Laughed my ass off. Although it's probably my fault for being an ass most of the time. Okay, then how about I invite Shio instead? Could it actually be real? I've been tricked by Grim several times in the past. If I trusted him like I usually did, he'd hit me with something so bad that it'd make my brain short circuit. But he was saying that he was going to invite Shiho, and that he even had a source for us. Neidhart. If this is just you baiting me again, I'll kick you out of the guild. Grim. KK. Trust me just this once. He's being surprisingly confident. Maybe it really was okay to trust him this time.
くそ、僕はなんてお人よしなんだ。
Damn it. I'm such an easy target. Slightly nervous. I squinted my eyes halfway shut to protect myself from seeing anything too quickly or too clearly. And then, I clicked the link.
なんだこれ。
What is this? It was a document written in English with a bunch of strange diagrams on the lower half. Part of it looked like a human face. The headline read, United States Patent. I knew that much, at least. In other words, this was
アメリカの特許。
an actual US patent.
VR 技術を知っているか？
Do you know what VR technology is?
すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
There have already been successful tests, to the point where the research team behind it have already obtained a patent for it. It was real. I then went to open one of the 2 text files that had come bundled with it. One of them had a series of news articles that seemed to mention the patent, all of which were translated into Japanese. One said that the Psychophysiology Research Laboratory of America's Victor Kondria University was currently researching a groundbreaking invention known as VR, visual rebuilding. As the goal of the research was primarily for healthcare, it had been gaining the attention of visually impaired people from all over the world. It was groundbreaking technology that enabled people who were blind from birth to see the scenery in front of them through video cameras and other imaging devices. To put it simply, this was done by converting signals, the ones that composed the image data that the video cameras received, into the only signal the brain could recognize, electrical signals known as nerve impulses. These are then transported to the brain via optic nerve. There had already been successful tests, and the patent had already been registered.
特許。本当に認められてる。
The patent, it was actually approved. So, did that mean what Sana had said wasn't just some Chuny delusion? I gulped, then went to open the other text file. I began reading. Presidential Documents, Memorandum of March 27, 1997. Strengthened protections for human subjects of classified research. The agencies shall jointly propose to prohibit waiver of informed consent for classified research, part of it said. Beginning 1 year after the date of this memorandum, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule, said another. The document was then signed at the bottom by William J. Clinton and enclosed the White House, Washington, March 27, 1997. A memorandum from the President of the United States. The contents sounded like the premise to a movie or something, so I never would have thought it was actually real. I went to check the original document via the URL. Even I could read English for the most part. Despite how I might have looked, I was a lot smarter than those decuns that went to school every day. The actual contents written in the document were the same as the translated text. Which means, Sana's words echoed in the back of my mind.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら
If it's possible to convert specific information into nerve impulses,
人の五感すべてさらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか
wouldn't it be possible to control all 5 of the senses and even the free will of people itself? It was starting to get somewhat difficult to understand at this point, but what Sana had told me, combined with the sources we'd found online that backed her up, it all sent chills down my spine. I had a feeling that something terrible was lurking within. But what confused me the most was what Sana's true intentions were telling me all this. Did it have anything to do with me? The part about being able to control people's free will definitely wasn't something I could dismiss as somebody else's problem. Because there was the possibility that I was a sleepwalker. On the day of the third Nugent incident, the crucifixion, I had been told that I'd been posted in a chat room as Shogun. Apparently, I'd posted from the internet cafe too, but I had no memory of any of it. And not only that, but I had absolutely no memory of Remy too. We had been classmates for over a year, and we had been close enough to hang out on multiple occasions, yet I had no memory of it. Maybe I had done all of those things while I was being manipulated by some other being. Besides, I was terrible at talking to 3D girls to begin with, so there was no way I could be close to a cute girl like Remy normally. No, I was thinking too hard about this. At the very least, I knew that the chat thing was just one of Yua's delusions. Shogun was a separate entity from me. He was trying to entrap me, and it didn't go beyond that. This was true regardless of whether or not he had actually been the old man in the wheelchair that had appeared in front of the 107. Maybe Sana too was one of Shogun's underlings. Maybe she was just trying to deceive me. Don't just blindly accept everything without questioning it. Don't trust a suspicious girl that you don't actually know. Sana and Yua were both the same breed. That's how it should go, right, Saratan? The only sound present in the room was the distinct clacking of a keyboard. Kusunoki Yua's thin, supple fingers moved as if they were dancing, her gaze fixed on the monitor all the while. Her touch typing was effortless, and she made next to no typos. She was writing an email. A very long one at that. You had already been writing for almost a half an hour, endlessly deliberating over the contents of the email and making frequent revisions as she continued to type. Suddenly, her fingers stopped moving. With a small, pained sigh, she abruptly pressed and held down the backspace key. The cursor that was lit up on the monitor began scrolling leftward at a high speed. All the long sentences she had written so far disappeared nearly instantaneously as the cursor traveled across the screen. When all the contents had been erased, Yua took hold of the Gero Froggy stuffed animal lying on her bed, then hugged it tightly to her chest. This was a habit Yua had developed recently. If she did not hug something in this way, she would be faced with an unbearable anxiety. Burying her chin in the stuffed animal, Yua sighed once again and shook her head softly.
私に勇気をください。
Please, give me the courage to do this. Murmuring softly to no one in particular, Yua's expression stiffened. With the stuffed animal resting on her lap, she returned her hands to the keyboard. Within the monitor, each letter she typed in a fluid manner was quickly displayed in sequence. Compared to the ones she had erased just moments before, this email was far more short and simple. It only served to provide the bare necessities of what she needed to convey. When she finished writing, Yua hesitated for a moment, and then she resolutely clicked on the send icon.
送っちゃった。
I sent it. Before she could stop it from going through, the email had already been sent in the blink of an eye. Yua squeezed the Gero Froggy sitting on her lap tightly and continued to stare at the monitor in front of her for over an hour. Although she had not been expecting one, there was no sign of a reply at all. There I was, in my beloved room 37. As I sank down into the recliner, I started chewing on my nails in an attempt to distract myself from my irritation. There was a reason why I'd come to the internet cafe 2 days in a row, yesterday and today. 2 nights ago, after Grim, Shiho, and I had found out what Santa had said was true, I'd received an email from Yua. In it, she'd insolently said that she wanted to talk to me one more time. Fuck off, I wanted to tell her. What the hell did she mean she wanted to talk? After deceiving me like that, I had nothing to say to her. Even if I did, she'd probably just come up with some new fancy way to trap me when I went to see her, as if I could risk that. It was true that I wasn't used to talking to girls. That was why I'd been so happy back when you was hitting on me. And yet, the harlot had been toying with me behind my back. And on top of that, she'd come up with all those insane delusions. Even I had delusions, sure, but I never bothered anyone else with them. But that girl assaulted me with her schizo BS and that treated me like I was the new gen culprit. I could never forgive what she'd done to me. Never. So, I'd ignored her email, But there had still been one thing that concerned me. In her email, she said that she was going to come to my base, and I knew for a fact that she knew my address. That was why I decided to take refuge at that cafe, despite it not being a school day. If I had the option, I would have brought my D-sword as protection charm, but unlike Santa, I didn't have the courage to walk down Center Guy with it. At any rate, spending almost half a day in an internet cafe was fairly tiring. The recliners were comfortable, and it was equipped with showers, but I still couldn't fully relax like I could at my base. And then the biggest problem of all, Sierra-tan wasn't there. After 2 days spent holed up in the cafe, I realized just how much the mere presence of Sierra-tan helped me. I wanted to hurry up and get back to my base as soon as possible. But going back late at night meant the date would change. And by that time, the last train would already be gone. I figured that Yua most likely wouldn't be waiting for me anymore by then. I had to stick around for another 4 hours before the clock would strike midnight. I was sure the time would go by a lot faster if I played ESO. I moved my gaze over to the PC monitor. My second character, Lizelet, was standing there aimlessly, not moving.
お前の見ている景色は本物か?
Is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Saying the words came to mind. More than half of what she'd said was true. The only thing I couldn't find a source for was the part where she is talking about controlling even people's wills and bodies. Maybe that part was just a delusion of hers. Mixing in just a few lies with the truth was a clever and effective way to scare people, especially with threats. Even though my reasonable side knew all that, I couldn't help but feel scared as I thought about all the strange, inexplicable phenomena that had been plaguing me over the past few weeks. In a daze, I looked at Lizelet on the screen.
リーゼロって、お前の見ている景色は本物か?
Lizelet, is the scenery your eyes perceive truly real? Keeping my voice low to avoid being overheard, I whispered that absentmindedly. I'd thought about something like this several times in the past. The world that I was looking at right now, Baselard, was the world that Lizelet lived in. Might have been real for her, but from my perspective, it was fake. Which meant that the world that I lived in was seen as fake from the point of view of the person controlling me. However, just as Lizelet couldn't perceive me as a higher being, I also couldn't perceive the person controlling me as a higher being. I wondered if Lizelet was thinking the same things that I was thinking. At the very least, she couldn't move on her own. I had to interfere in order for her to move. So, what about me? Maybe I too couldn't get up from this recliner without the interference of the person controlling me. To test this, I tried to stand up. I did it with ease. After that, I tried sitting down. Took no effort. But this sequence of events, was it really of my own volition? Or was it the result of someone's interference? I had no way of knowing.
Eh?
Huh? I heard the sound of a partition door to the private room being opened behind me. And at the same time, I felt someone come in. Startled, I turned around. I was gonna say, is it Yua? Kusunoki, Yua. I was so terrified that I was about to scream. But Yua's hand quickly covered my mouth. Her hand was hot, and the scent of Yua's sweat infiltrated my nose.
黙って
Be quiet.
声は出さないで
Don't make a sound.
出さないって約束して
Promise not to make a sound.
約束してくれるよね
Will you promise me?
しないなんて言わないよね
You better not say otherwise.
約束して
Promise me.
するでしょ
You'll do it, won't you?
するの
Do it,
お願い
please. She goofy. In this small, private room, the only way out was blocked by Yua. The next thing I knew, my shoulders were being held down with such incredible force, I couldn't even get up from the seat. Yua's cold gaze pierced through me at point-blank range. I couldn't help but look away, and my eyes fell on the 3 Garo froggies attached to the bag she was carrying on her shoulder.
いい
Alright,
声を
don't
出さない
make a sound. Oh. We're gonna go with positive, like she's trying to save him. If I didn't do as she said, you would kill me. Believing when that would happen, I didn't resist and just nodded along. There was something I had to tell you, no matter what it took.
好き
I like you.
好きなの
I really like you.
分かって
Do you understand?
大好き
I love you.
分かってよ
You need to understand.
私のものになって
I want you to be mine.
お願い
Please. I thought that confessions were supposed to be romantic, heartrending, and happy. But this wasn't like that. This was terrifying. Every word sent chills down my spine. In a situation like this, I normally confess my love as well, but here, it felt like I'd be signing my own death sentence if I did. I had no choice but to be clear and refuse. This girl was nothing more than a stalker. If I didn't refuse here and now, I would be totally fucked. I forcefully shook off Yua's hand.
お断りだ警察に突き出すぞ
I refuse. I'm gonna hand you over to the police. Yua's expression became tense, as if in shock. She hung her head, and her demeanor instantly turned timid.
そんなに嫌われてたなんて
To think you hated me that much.
ごめんなさい
I'm sorry.
付きまといません
I'm sorry. I'll stay away from you from now on.
さようなら西条くん
Goodbye, Shiju-kun. She pulled herself away and turned her back to me. Her shoulders drooped. And then she shakily walked out of the private room. I'd said it. Haha, I'd said it. Seeing Yua crying like that actually made me feel relieved. I couldn't help but to be happy that I'd finally been freed of that stalker. So much so that I unconsciously struck a victory pose. Alright, what's the truth? Only to suddenly come back to myself. Since life was never that easy, Yua was right in front of me, covering my mouth.
西条くんのこと騙してたわけだし
You, Shiju-kun. She was murmuring something in a quiet whisper. I hadn't heard what she'd said at all. I'd been busy escaping from reality. How nice would it have been if that delusion had been real. With no way for my wish to come true, Yua continued to talk.
でもお願いです。
But please,
一つだけ言わせてください。
please let me say just one thing.
これ以上あなたが傷つくのも、あなたが不幸になるのも、あなたのせいで不幸になる人が出るのも見たくないんです。
I don't want to see you get hurt anymore, nor do I want you to be unhappy, but I also don't want you to make any more people unhappy either. What was she talking about? She was talking as if she knew everything about me. Despite the fact that we hadn't even spent 24 hours together. Just what the hell did this girl actually know about me? Was this just another one of her signature batshit insane delusions? A shudder ran through me, and I started flailing my arms and legs. But even so, Yua didn't let go. If this went on for much longer, this girl might actually kill me. Had Shogun given up on trying to trap me and had just sent Yua as an assassin instead? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die!
ごめんなさい。お願いだから静かにしてください。
I'm sorry, but please just be quiet.
話はすぐ終わりますから。
I'm almost done. The tone of her voice was meek, but the power behind Yua's hands as she held me down was so strong. Even if I tried to resist, she wouldn't budge an inch. I couldn't believe that such slender hands could be so powerful.
石城くん。
Shizu-kun. Yua inched her face closer and closer to mine. I desperately turned my head away.
もう。
Please. That was when I noticed Yua's hands were trembling. Or was it just that my hands were shaking so much? It may look like hers were too. While I pondered that, something unbelievable came out of her mouth.
人を殺すのはやめてください。
Don't kill anyone anymore. What?
自覚がないんですね。
You aren't even aware of it, are you?
でもそれも私には理解できます。
But I understand that too.
石城くんに自覚があるはずないから。
After all, you have no way of knowing, Ishizu-kun. Knowing what?
あなたは
Yua's eyes shone with sorrow. Even though she had been staring at me intently until now, she suddenly cast her eyes downward.
DID 多重人格なんです。
I was just about to say something like that. I have DID, multiple personalities. I was just thinking, okay, so I was just thinking, is like all the people that he talks to, like his classmates that he thinks they're there, are they made up in his head? You know, different people and whatnot. So, okay, that would make sense. I had multiple personalities?
最初はあなたのこと警察に突き出すつもりでした。
At first, I fully intended on turning you over to the police. Despite how confused I was, Yua continued to talk.
それが無理ならこの手でとも思ってました。
And if that didn't work, I'd even thought to take matters in my own hands.
だけどあなたのこと調べていくうちに
But when I investigated you,
あなたも苦しんでるんだって分かって
I found that you were suffering just as much as I was. The eyes behind Yua's glasses once again took hold of me. They pleaded with me. And no matter how hard I tried to see it as something else, I couldn't see her as anything other than genuinely worried about me. And that horrified me.
私あなたを助けたい
I want to help you. This girl's delusions were getting out of control. What she was saying was totally insane. Or was it? Was it really insane?
だから病院に行きましょう
So, let's go to the hospital. We'll do it together. I didn't truly know myself, understand myself. I had posted in a chat room under the handle Shogun without knowing it. Even though I had no memory of it, I had become friends with a girl named Rimi. It wasn't just me sleepwalking. And it wasn't some higher being controlling me. Maybe the person controlling me from inside my head literally was inside my head. I wasn't me. I wasn't me. I was a totally different personality. I had multiple personalities. My head hurt. A throbbing, stabbing pain ripped through it. That wasn't possible. The entire thing was bullshit. Who would ever believe that? It, too, was yet another one of Yua's delusions. She was my enemy. She was impeding my way of life. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to destroy my mind. Even the hospital itself was under Shogun's reign. The only person I trusted, Dr. Takashina, had disappeared in such a sudden, inexplicable manner. Shogun must have made him disappear. And if I did what Yua said, he'd make me disappear too. I don't believe her. It's not true. It's not true, 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 not true, not true, not true, not true. It's not true. I was stuck in my own head. I shoved Yua's hand off me with every ounce of strength I could muster. Slamming into the wooden sliding door behind her, Yua slumped down to the floor with a grimace. Yeah. Finally freed from Yua's grasp, I grabbed my bag, stepped over Yua's body, and made for the exit. Wait. Still crumpled on the floor, Yua grabbed my ankle. Her hair was disheveled, and her glasses were falling off her face, but she made no effort to fix them. Seeing her clinging so desperately to me terrified me so much. A pathetic scream escaped from my mouth. She was my enemy, one of Shogun's underlings. I won't be deceived. I won't be deceived by you ever again. Don't touch me! I shouted as loud as I could, and Yua quickly let go of me. In that window, I bolted out of the room. I tore a 5,000 yen bill from my wallet, slammed it down on the counter in front of the dumbfounded receptionist. And then, without getting my change, I burst onto the elevator leading outside. I nearly tumbled out of the elevator as I burst outside. The sun was already setting. I examined my surroundings. There were people everywhere. Run. It doesn't matter where, just run. My base wasn't safe. She was following me. I had no idea where to even go, but as I started running away, thinking that Yua might get off another elevator any moment now, that she might be threatening me again in that ice cold voice of hers, I didn't want to stay there for even a second longer. I looked behind me over and over again, but I kept on running regardless of what I saw. The pedestrians were all in the way. I bumped into a businessman and a DQ-esque high school girl. When that happened, I was showered with curses. But I still didn't stop. I just kept on running. It hurt to breathe. I'd picked some random ass road without thinking, and I still had no idea where I was running. I stopped to catch my breath. I checked the scenery around me where I was standing. It was in front of the Marucci, which meant I could take shelter in Miyashita Park. I would take a quick breath there, then I would run somewhere farther away. If I went to Yoyogi Park, there would be plenty of places to hide, so I could spend the night there. I couldn't help but wonder what was behind me. I didn't see any signs of Yua. However, I wouldn't be surprised if she appeared in front of me at any second now, complete with the most terrifying, demonic expression I'd ever encountered. My instincts screamed at me. Run! You need to run! Exhausted, I weakly sat down on the pavement in Miyashita Park overpass. I'd run way too much. My throat was dying. I wanted to drink a nice, ice-cold cola. But I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I was okay now that I'd come this far. No, I couldn't be careless. I still had to be fully aware of my surroundings. There should be only a few people in Miyashita Park at night, or at least that's what I expected. But much to my surprise, that wasn't the case. There was a businessman walking briskly through the park, likely using it as a shortcut. An older man sitting on a bench messing with his cell phone. Several homeless people sitting around absentmindedly. And lastly, a person wearing blue talking to one of them, a police officer. The police. I gulped audibly. I remembered that I'd been questioned by a pair of detectives a while ago. I hadn't heard a single thing from them since. They'd said they were going to guard the area surrounding my base, but there was no sign of them following through with it. Although, according to Misumi-kun, they had apparently come to investigate Sumi. Those two detectives, what were their names again? I couldn't remember. I told both of them the truth about what I had witnessed at the scene of the crucifixion, but in hindsight, I couldn't help but think that they'd clearly been looking at me with suspicion as I did. Right as I thought that, the policeman who'd been talking to the homeless man glanced at me, or at least that was how it felt. Oh no, we're just gonna go normal. You're overthinking it, I thought to myself, but I still tried to follow the police officer's movements closely. But maybe I was being too obvious, because the cop looked over once again, and it was clearly directed at me this time. I was the first one to look down. I doubted that I could survive a staring contest against a cop. Had he looked at me for a reason? Or had he just looked at me because I looked at him? Which was it? I didn't know. It could have been either one of those reasons. After waiting a few moments, I looked up and glanced at the officer once again. The cop was still looking at me, so I hurriedly turned my head away in a panic. This was bad. I was acting way too suspicious. With you already hunting me down, I couldn't afford to have the police coming after me too. I had to get out of this somehow. I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. Still sitting down, I took a textbook out from my bag. I pretended to start reading it, then I casually looked over to see what the policeman was doing. The police officer brought out a black object, likely a police radio, to his mouth. Was he reporting something? But from where I was sitting, the sound of cars passing by on the street below me was so loud, I couldn't hear his voice at all. This couldn't have gone any worse. That was what it felt like. Maybe I should get out of here, I thought to myself, but it was too late for that. If I did anything careless, it would be... If you pretended to read a book, you would have to keep up that pretense for a certain amount of time, or else you'd look suspicious. I had to keep up the act until the cops stopped looking at me. But right as I thought that, I realized that a figure who had previously looked like they were heading for the park was instead walking straight toward the policeman. Upon looking at them with the corner of my eyes shot open. Yua. She couldn't possibly have come at a worse time. Cold sweat seeped not only from my forehead, but from my entire body. This was bad. This was really, really bad. It didn't look like Yua had noticed me yet, so I prayed that she was just gonna walk away without doing so. But my prayers went unanswered. After all, the policeman's gaze was still trained on me. It was only natural that Yua, who had ran up to the cop and said something to him, would follow his gaze and lock onto me. I clicked my tongue, tucked my textbook back into my bag, then partially got up. I took a position that would allow me to bolt at any time. Yua and the policeman exchanged a few words, and then they both looked at me. Don't look at me. Yua then blatantly pointed at me. She was explaining something to the cop. You fucking bitch. You gotta be kidding. You've gotta be fucking kidding. This felt like it was enough to make even a level-headed person like myself to completely snap. Yua is reporting me to the police. And not only that, but she was telling him that nonsensical, delusional bullshit that she'd pulled out of her ass. The idea that I was the Nugent killer. That may be enough to satisfy you, but just put yourself in my shoes. How would you feel if you got falsely accused? My cries obviously had no way of reaching her. The policeman who had listened to Yua's story began to approach me. His shoulders squared. I stood up. Shit. I was trapped. She was going to ruin my life. What do I do? What should I do? Should I just tell the policeman the truth? That it was all delusion she came up with? I didn't do anything. I was a model citizen. There was no way. That would never work. In this day and age, when given the choice between an otaku freak like me and a wholesome high school girl like Yua, it was fairly obvious who the cops were more likely to believe. There was no way they'd ever take anything I had to say seriously. That was why I had to run away right this instant. The second I thought that, I turned on my heel and broke into a sprint. I crossed the overpass leading toward the stairs to Mijidori. When I got there, I looked behind me and I saw the policeman sprinting after me. And not only that, but strangely enough, the man sitting on the bench and even one of the homeless people right behind him. You've got to be kidding. Wait, were all those people undercover cops? Had Yua had the police on her side the entire time? Had Miyashita Park been full of undercover detectives the entire time? I had no idea what to do anymore. I'd been caught completely off guard. It was so incredibly unreasonable that I felt like I was about to cry. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done anything at all. The police were being jerked around by her. This was insane. Wiping away my tears, I rushed down the stairs. I ran down Mijidori, heading straight toward the station without looking at anyone or anything. I passed under a pedestrian overpass and ran up the stairs leading to it. There were people everywhere. All of them were blocking my path. I felt as if each and every one of them were deliberately getting in my way, like they all had some form of malicious intent. Everyone looked like they could be cops. I was this close to completely panicking. I looked behind me and saw someone sprinting after me. I caught a glimpse of the person cutting through the crowd just like I was. It was one of the people that had been in the park. I didn't know who it was. Didn't matter. They were following me regardless. I was horrified. If I got caught, my life would be over. I'd be falsely accused of a crime I didn't commit, sentenced to death, locked up in a high security prison for decades and decades, and then, after I finished enduring that living hell, I'd finally be told, "Alrighty then, your number's up, time for you to die." I didn't want that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I didn't want to live like that. Even if I somehow managed to prove that it was a false accusation, once I was branded as a criminal, it would never go away. Everyone around me would look at me suspiciously for the rest of my life. I didn't want that. I hadn't even done anything. I turned onto a small street that was completely deserted, and I kept running as hard as I could. But I had been running ever since I'd left the internet cafe, and I still hadn't been able to catch my breath. My lungs were begging for oxygen. My legs were shaking with fatigue. I hated myself for not exercising more, but it was too late for that regardless. Finally, I couldn't run anymore, so I doubled over and gripped my knees with my hands. The place where I'd stopped looked familiar. The distinctive red brick walls paired with a gigantic backlight sign that read Gigantus. I've been here before with Masumi-kun. We'd come to see Phantasm concert, or, to be more specific, their lead singer, Fess. But now, the place was quiet and empty, with only other light being from the vending machine dimly illuminating my surroundings. Frustrated that my breath still hadn't gone back to normal, I looked back toward the road and I had sprinted down. The street was dimly lit and narrow. As the Tokyo line train slowly passed directly above me, despite the striking glow of the light leaking from the windows of the train, it didn't even reach the streets below. I stared at the road in front of me. I wondered if I'd managed to lose them being you and the police. It was too dark for me to tell for sure.
私についてきて。
Come with me. Suddenly, I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and I let out a pathetic scream before toppling to the ground. It was Fess, dressed in a flashy outfit that she would wear to a concert. As she quietly looked down at me from the darkness, the eruptive energy that she'd given off while she was on stage now completely absent, making her appear almost transient, like she might disappear at any moment. Because of the darkness, I couldn't see her expression. As my mind wandered in my surprise, Fess gently held her hand out to me.
だって、早く。
Stand up. Quickly. Her tone of voice was dispassionate, but I could tell she wasn't going to let me argue with her. Still holding out her hand, Fess slowly craned her neck, then narrowed her eyes as if she had seen through the darkness.
逃げないと。
We need to run. Why? Did she know that I'd been running from you and the police? I was freaked out for a second, but I knew that right now, salvation was almost within my grasp. That was why, as if I was clinging to my only hope left, I took her hand. Her hand was cold to the touch. Right as I stood up, Fess started running. As I was already utterly exhausted, I felt incredible resentment, but I knew that if it hadn't been for Fess, I would never have been able to stand up again, and the police would have likely caught up with me. I still wanted to quench my dying thirst in some way, but I knew I couldn't afford to. Fess pulled me by the hand and led us forward. We entered a narrow alleyway, and made turn after turn at various intersections. I had no idea where I was running to. I wasn't even familiar with the layout of Shibuya, so I had no choice but to follow Fess the entire time. I nearly entertained the idea that this could be another trap set by Shogun, but I shook the thought from my head. Even if Fess was another one of Shogun's underlings, there could be nothing I could do about it. My legs were heavy with lactic acid, and I was starting to feel lightheaded, probably because my brain hadn't been getting enough oxygen due to all the running. I was this close to crying out and saying that I couldn't run anymore. In fact, I may or may not have said it several times unconsciously. But even so, Fess never once looked back at me. She just kept on going. Before I knew it, I found myself on a road where the Shudo Expressway ran overhead. Shibuya Station was only a little bit farther away, but there were barely any people around. Without a shred of hesitation, Fess started to head down the stairs that led into the gaping maw of the underground. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she finally came to a stop. I let go of Fess's hand and doubled over on the stairs, gasping for breath. I wondered how much running I'd done today. I didn't think I'd ever exercised so much in my entire life. For a while, the only sounds present in the dim, dreary underground tunnel were the sounds of me and Fess breathing. I looked up at the entrance where we had just come down from, but there was no sign of our pursuers. I guess that meant we'd managed to escape somehow. That aside, this was my first time learning that this underground passage even existed. On top of that, even though it was fairly close to the station, there wasn't a single person passing through it. One of the fluorescent lights that illuminated the tunnel was on its last legs, flickering on and off without end. There was a faint smell of rotting garbage in the air. It was a place that symbolized the underground side of Shibuya. If someone were to attack me here, even if I screamed as loud as I could, it may not even reach the outside. This was not a place I'd ever want to come to alone. Still breathing heavily, I slowly examined Fess's profile. She was a charismatic songstress who captivated the youth of Shibuya. People even called her a prophet. And now, that very same Fess was here alone with an otaku freak piece of shit like me. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Her forehead was beading with sweat, with several drops running down her cheeks. She was wiping it off with the back of her hand. And we'll go positive. Her breasts, exposed through her camisole, rose and fell heavy with every breath she took. A glimpse providing healthy eroticism. Eroticism. Whatever. In an atmosphere flowing with ennui. Mo didn't do it justice. The best and only possible word befitting of her was erotic. That camisole with its cross-shaped design was downright criminal. And I couldn't help but think that it didn't look like she was wearing a bra underneath. Maybe she really wasn't wearing a bra. That'd be very interesting, I think. What kind of underwear did Fess usually wear, I wondered. Damn, he's just... probably the sexy kind, like black or red. Well, I mean, it'd probably go with the outfit. But personally, I'd want them to be a nice, clean white. Wait, what kind of stupid shit was I thinking about? Did I forget the situation I was in? You were being pursued, were you not? Yeah. I noticed this isn't a delusion. By the police? I nodded in response. It wasn't just the police. You was following me too. But I was too exhausted to tell her that. I am the same. Huh? What was that supposed to mean? They asked me if there was a connection between the lyrics I wrote and some incident I cannot recall the name of. They were very insistent. Nujin. The lyrics that Fess had written matched up with that string of incidents. That's why all our sheep went and shut up with all those rumors. They'd been saying that she was a prophet. It seems that they suspect me. As a Nujin criminal? I thought the same thing back when I'd first heard her lyrics. Hell, I'd even thought that Fess herself was Shogun. But considering the fact that she'd saved me, she probably wasn't. Putting all that aside, I wondered why Fess was even there. Her saving me must have been a coincidence. Yeah, it had to be. I mean, I've been right out in front of the concert venue, so there's probably just another concert today.
君が追われてるのはなぜ？
You were being pursued as well. Why?
何か悪いことでもしたの？
Did you do something wrong?
チクられた。
She told the police.
あの女、僕のことチクったんだ。
That girl, she told the police that,
ニュージェネの犯人にされる。
she's making me out to be the Nugent criminal. You was trying to set me up. Damn it. Shogun and that girl were going to ruin my life.
そう、
I see.
容疑者候補ね。私たち。
So we are both potential suspects then. Why was she laughing?
僕は無実だ。
Innocent. I yelled out frantically. My voice reverberated loudly throughout the underpass, but I couldn't stop now.
事件を目撃しただけだ。証拠品を勝手に持ち帰っちゃったけど、それだけ。
I was just a witness. I just took some evidence back home with me without thinking. That's all.
僕殺してない。
I didn't kill anyone.
それなら。
Then, Fess whispered, returning to her original dispassionate voice.
きっとそれは導きなのよ。
It must be the guidance
大いなる存在による。
of a higher power. What? Another fucking mental case? I got him. Chunibyo. Chunibyo. Chunibyo.
君の見たものが事実だったか幻だったかは些細なこと。
Whether or not what you saw was real or an illusion is inconsequential. That horrible scene. Was there any possibility that it had all just been an illusion? But it had all felt so real.
君が今抱いている苦しみや怒りは
The pain and anger that you are harboring now,
必要なものだったということよ。
it is all necessary. Well, what was she saying? I was utterly dejected. I had been slightly suspicious back at the concert, and I'd turned out to be right. Fess really was a total schizo freak. They say there's a fine line between genius and insanity, but this is pushing it.
だから早く見つけて
That is why you must find it quickly.
剣を見つけて
Find your sword. I was taken aback. That was what Fess had told me back when we had met at school. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. She'd said this before. Aside from the police, what scared me the most was Shogun and his underlings. I had no idea why, but they were all trying to trap me, and they all clearly had malicious intent. In order to save myself from them, in order to protect myself, I needed...
ディソード。
a D-sword?
そうよ。
Yes. Fess's lips twisted in the shape of a smile.
勉強したみたいね。
You have been studying, it seems.
それなら手に入れた。
If that's what you mean, then I already got one.
僕はディソードを持ってる。
I have a D-sword.
今家に。
It's at my house.
知ってるわ。
I know. She knew. How did she know?
見たから。
I saw.
君が渋谷のど真ん中を歩いていたのを。
You were walking directly in the middle of Shibuya.
大きなおもちゃを抱きしめて恥ずかしそうにしてたわね。
You were gripping a large toy, and you looked fairly embarrassed. Was she talking about the day I'd bought the D-sword? Ah, Fess had seen me. Fuck my life. Wait a minute. What has she just said?
おもちゃ
Toy. The smile had already disappeared from Fess's face. She glanced at my face and let out a small sigh. Her sense of ennui, her aloofness, was so pure, it made me feel uneasy.
偽物だと思うわ。
The sword you bought
あなたの買った剣は
is a fake. I wasn't even that surprised. I'd expected it, honestly. The sword I'd bought was way too cheap compared to the one Santa had. It didn't even glow. Besides, the idea that a sword would supposedly bring me salvation was being sold for 10,000 yen alongside sex toys was the least anime thing possible. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. Instead, I felt a furious surge of anger well up inside me. Anger that the gloomy shopkeeper who had tricked me. Anger at myself for being so pathetic that I'd been tricked so easily. Anger at Fess for saying nothing meaningful in the slightest instead of giving me a straight answer.
じゃあ
Fine. I stood up and moved closer to Fess. Normally, I would have never done something like that, but I was desperate. I've been being chased by you and the police only a few moments ago, and I was absolutely terrified. Not only that, but in the past month or so, I'd experienced countless bad thoughts. It was all too much for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get my hands on a sword so I could get back to my peaceful way of life.
教えてよ
Tell me,
理想のどうやって手に入れるのか
how do I get my hands on the D-sword? Fess's expression stiffened, and then she turned to me.
見て
Watch. She suddenly thrust the palm of her right hand out in front of me. Stopping me from coming any closer, Fess curled her right hand into a fist. And upon swinging her hand behind her in a motion resembling a back fist, together with a sound akin to that of glass breaking, the empty space cracked, and then it shattered. My eyes went wide. I was speechless. Fess stared at me. Her expression had not changed in the slightest. Within the cracks of the shattered space was a deep darkness spreading wide. With her hand buried between the fissures, Fess pulled her hand back toward her with a tremendous force. Ooh. And now, within that hand, was a giant sword.
ソード
D-sword. The fissures in the empty space were repaired in an instant. The cracks disappeared as if nothing had even happened. It all happened in the span of a few seconds. Had that been a magic trick? Or was what I was seeing just a delusion? It was far too removed from reality. I couldn't believe what had just happened right in front of me. This was a fantasy anime.
この剣は命運を握るもの
This sword is that which bends fate to its will. That sword. It was the same one she'd been wielding at the concert. The same one I'd mistaken for a microphone stand. Its shape almost looked like a battleship ripped straight from a sci-fi anime.
この剣は嘆きを収束させたもの
This sword is that which converges all sorrows. There were no straight lines to be found on it, and yet it appeared incredibly sharp, incredibly beautiful, incredibly sinister.
この剣は超越した場所に干渉するためのもの。
This sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place, and that if you so much as touched it, your fingers would be severed from the bone.
超越した場所って。
Wait, what do you mean, transcendental place? I was mesmerized. Her D sword utterly captivated me, which is why I'd asked her without thinking.
異空間のようなもの。
It is akin to another space. Oh boy, info dump time. This was definitely an anime at this point.
同一次元上にあるもう一つの可能性。
Another possibility within the same dimension.
あるいは妄想。
Or perhaps a delusion. A delusion?
言い方にあんまり意味はないわ。
Stating it that way does not provide much in the way of meaning.
唯一確かなの。
The sole thing we can know for certain, however,
この剣もその領域に存在しているということ。
is that this sword exists within that region. So in other words, she was saying that her D sword was a product of her delusions? Did that mean that the supernatural phenomena I'd seen before had also been delusions? Had they not been real?
そんなのありえない。
That's impossible.
そう。
Ugh. If it was a delusion, then why was I seeing Fess's sword right now?
言葉に引きずられてはダメよ。
Do not be led astray by words.
後ろを振り返ってみて。
Try turning around. I was baffled by Fess's request, but I complied anyway. Behind me was a flight of stairs, and on those stairs was Fess, wearing only white lingerie. What? Fess was standing right beside me. Fess was standing on the stairs right in front of me. Two of the same person in the same place. And not only that, but one of them was incredibly sexy, wearing only her underwear. Completely and utterly flustered, I relentlessly snapped back and forth between the two Fesses over and over again, comparing them. They were exactly the same, right down to their facial features, height, and hairstyles. The only differences were their clothes, and whether or not they were carrying a sword. They weren't twins or anything like that, and they didn't just look alike. They were one and the same. I was used to seeing girls in their underwear in eroge, but here, I couldn't handle it for some reason. I had run into Naomi's piss-smelling underwear countless times, so you'd think this would be no big deal. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get myself to follow that line of logic. Fess was standing in the middle of this disgusting underpass in only her underwear. Felt like I was about to lose my mind from how unbelievable the situation was. Even though I knew I shouldn't look at her, I couldn't help but feel like I was this close to stealing a glance anyway. It took an insane amount of willpower to keep my eyes down.
ごめん。
I'm sorry. I automatically apologized. Because I knew that only a few minutes ago, I'd had a delusion about this very thing. Fess wearing white lingerie.
君が望んだ妄想。
This is the delusion you wished for. The two Fesses said that at the same time, as if they could see right through me. I jumped, startled. I could feel my face rapidly turning red. I needed an excuse. I needed a way out of this. If a 3D girl labeled me as a pervert, it'd be over. I'd be socially obliterated. Okay. Wait. While that may be important, the more pressing matter is, what the hell is happening? As he walked cautiously through the narrow, trash-ridden streets of Murimacho, Banisuji jammed one hand inside his pants pocket. Inside, he found a few dozen small coins.
先輩、貼り付けの現場に何があるって言うんすか?
Sir, what exactly are you expecting to find at the crucifixion crime scene?
もう事件から2週間以上経ってるし、散々調べられた後っすよ。
It's already been more than 2 weeks since it happened. Don't you think it's been investigated well enough?
新しい証拠なんて出てきませんって。
With all due respect, new evidence isn't just gonna pop out of thin air. His partner, Detective Suwa, had been walking behind him, grousing in an irritated voice for quite some time. That was understandable, of course, as the job originally assigned to them had been to tail an important witness for the new gen cases, Nishiju Takumi. However, the two of them abandoned their tailing mission and had instead come to the scene of the third new gen incident, colloquially known as crucifixion. Ban had decided to abandon their original task of tailing Nishiju Takumi, forcing the burden onto some other detective in the same jurisdiction. The rookie detective, Suwa, was not pleased by this.
やっぱまずいっすよ。尾行に戻りましょう。
Come on, there's no way this will pan out. Let's just go back to tailing already. The rookie detective had consistently been pushed around by his senior without any explanation, and he could not stand it. For that reason, he had been insistently trying to persuade Ban for a long time now. But to this, Ban only said,
いいから黙ってついてこいって。
Oh, quit your yapping and follow me. He remained aloof and refused to heed his junior's perfectly sound arguments. Finally, they at last came across a narrow road, blocked off by yellow barricaded tape. As Suwa let out the latest in his myriad of sighs, his cell phone began vibrating near his chest. He quickly took out his phone, which had been set to vibrate, assumed the look of a capable detective, and pressed the accept button.
スワッス。
Suwa here.
はい。はい。
Yes, yes. As he listened to Sua's voice coming from behind him, Ban came to a stop in front of the barricade tape. Behind that tape was the crime scene. A deep darkness had settled over the area, just as it had when the crime had been committed. But now there was no remaining traces of the incident, save for the barricade tape.
見失った?
You lost him.
女か。やられたっすね。
A girl. Looks like they got us.
とりあえず、深センの家に戻ってほしいっす。
Alright, then go ahead and head back to his house in Shinsen.
はい。張り込んでてください。
Yes. Make sure to keep your eyes peeled.
いやいや、大丈夫っすよ。責任はバン警部補が取るっすから。
No, don't worry. Assistant Inspector Ban will take all the flack for you. Ban smiled wryly upon hearing that. Suwa could be surprisingly shrewd. Of course, Ban had no intention of placing the blame onto his subordinates, nor onto the detective he had placed in charge.
なるべく早くこっちも合流します。本当申し訳ないっす。お願いします。
We'll join up with you as soon as we're done here. We're really sorry about all this. Good luck. Right as Suwa hung up the phone and returned to his begrudging gaze to Ban, Ban ducked under the tape. Sue had no choice but to reluctantly accompany him.
見失ったって
They lost him, eh?
尾行に気づかれたっす。
He figured out he was being tailed.
直前にネットカフェで一騒動あったみたいっすし。
Seems like there had been some commotion at the internet cafe a bit before that.
女っての
And the girl?
岸本綾瀬っす。
Kishimoto Ayase.
お騒がせバンドのジョーちゃんか。つながりは
Ah, the little lady from the band that's been causing us a whole host of trouble. What's the connection between them?
同じ学校の同じ学年っすね。
They both go to the same school, same year even.
他は今のところ特に。クラスメートでもないっす。
Other than that, nothing in particular. They're not even classmates. Van brought a hand to his chin, savoring the rough texture of his stubble for a moment. After which, he took out several coins from his pocket and started counting them in the dark one by one. Sue stared at his eccentric senior with a puzzled look on his face.
何してるんすか?
What are you up to?
よりによって5円玉だけありゃしね。
Of course, I can't find a 5 yen coin when I actually need one.
そうお前5円玉持ってねえか
Sue, you have a 5 yen coin on you?
は
あ. Perplexed, Sue took a 5 yen coin out from his wallet and held it out to Ban. However, instead of taking it straight away, Ban tore the bottom button off of the shirt he was wearing. He then untied the thread fastened to the button.
先輩、ついに頭おかしくなったんすか?
Sir, have you finally lost it?
生意気な口聞くようになったじゃねえか。
You've got a real mouth on you. You know that? Ban chuckled and lightly whapped Sue on the head. He then took the thread and weaved it through the hole in the center of the coin.
よし、お前にやらせてやるよ。
Alrighty, I'll let you do the honors. After pinching both ends of the thread with his fingers, Ban let the 5 yen coin hang down and handed it to his junior.
振り子っすか?
Pendulum? Ban smiled mischievously.
こいつが事件の重要なヒントを与えてくれるかもしれないぜ。
This little guy might give us an important clue for this case of ours.
マジっすか?
You're kidding.
バンさん、勘弁してほしいっすよ。
Ron-san, could you spare me from your craziness for once?
そのために仕事をほっぽってここまで来たんすか?
Is this why you abandoned your assignment to come here? Sue's tone was almost mournful. He had been pushed around countless times by Ban before now, but this time, Ban had finally managed to utterly stump the rookie detective.
サイキック操作とかダウジングとか?
Is this some kind of psychic investigation? Like dowsing or something?
その手のテレビでも見て影響を受けたんすね、先輩。
You've really been watching too much TV, sir.
そういうお前も詳しいじゃねえ。
For the guy getting on my case, you sure seem well affiliated with this stuff.
いや、まあ自分も見たは見たっすよ。先週のユーリ・ブライトマン。
Well, yeah, I've checked out a few shows like that. Last week, there was one centered on Yuri Brightman. Yuri
Brightman っすよ。今話題になってるアメリカの超能力捜査官っす。
Yuri Brightman. He's this psychic detective from America.
俺が見たのはそんなチャラチャラしたもんじゃねえんだよ。
What I saw wasn't anything all that flashy.
どこかのお偉い大学教授が出てるな。
But the program did have some esteemed college professor on it.
でもテレビっすよね。
But it was still on TV, yeah?
このやつだよ。
You really like to pick apart every little thing, don't you?
やってみりゃわかる。 ほら、いいから吊るしてみろって。
You'll get it once you actually give it a shot. Come on, let it hang down. When his senior issued that request, Sua did not have any room to refuse. His lips pursed in a sullen manner, but he reluctantly accepted the 5 yen coin. He pinched the ends of the string and began to twirl it around in a circle, creating centrifugal motion. It was too dark for either of them to see it clearly, so Ban flickered on a 100-yen cigarette lighter and used it as their light source.
先輩ってタバコ吸いましたっけ？
You smoke, sir?
10年以上前に禁煙したよ。飲んでた。
I quit smoking over 10 years ago. Why do you ask?
ライター持ってたっけから。
Well, you've got a lighter on you, so I just figured.
こういうこともあろうかと用意してみたんだよ。
I was just prepared, that's all.
はは。で、これで何がわかるんです？
Right, so what am I missing here?
もっといろいろ動かしたり止めたりしてみろ。
Try moving it around a bit more, and then try to stop it. Ben monitored the movement of the 5 yen coin intently. Ben's eyes were so intensely serious, Sua could no longer complain about this being a pointless excursion.
やっぱりな。
Just as I thought.
スワ、わかるか？
You get it now, Sua?
何がっす？
Get what?
5円玉の動きだよ。
The movement of the coin.
さっきから少しだけ楕円を描いてるような気がしねえか。
Doesn't it feel like it's been forming an ellipse? Ellipse? Using the thread as support, the dangling 5 yen coin was slowly revolving around in a circular motion. Sua cocked his head.
力の入れ方とかじゃないんすか？
It's not just because of how I'm swinging it or something?
お前、楕円に回るように意識してやってんのかな？
Are you trying to make an ellipse?
いや、結構適当にくるくる。
Well, no. I just kind of made it go around.
もっと手を動かさねえようにやってるわ。
Try not to move your hand as much.
はあ。
Okay. Sua consciously tried to move his hand in a circular fashion, but no matter how hard he tried, the trajectory drawn by the 5 yen coin was always elliptical in shape.
おかしいな。
This is weird.
意識的に違う形にしようとしてもできねえだろ。
Even if you try to force it to make a different shape, it won't let you, right? Ben's face was full of pride. Sua, on the other hand, was still not convinced and continued relentlessly in his quest to try and change the motion of the pendulum.
まあ、渋谷のどこでもこの現象が見られるわけじゃねえな。
Well, it's not like this phenomenon can be witnessed just anywhere in Shibuya.
それでも十数箇所はここみてえな場所があるらしいぜ。
Even so, I've heard that there are about a dozen places where the same thing happens.
確かに不思議っすね。
Huh. This really is pretty out there.
でも、だから何なんす？
But what does it have to do with the case? Ben looked up in satisfaction, put his lighter back in his pocket, then retrieved the hand fan that had been stabbed between his belt and pants.
お前、渋谷がなんでここまで若者を引きつけるか知ってるか？
Do you know why Shibuya attracts so many youngins to it?
5円玉が楕円を描くからっすか？
What? Because this 5 yen coin forms an ellipse? Sua thought he was making a clever jab, but Ben nodded readily in response, calmly fanning his face all the while.
まあ、そういうこと。
Yep. You got it.
なぜこの渋谷という場所は若者たちをこんなにも引きつけると思う？
Why do you think that Shibuya attracts so many youths? Suddenly, the conversation I was having with Fest transitioned into something completely unrelated, but I was actually somewhat relieved by that. I'd expected Fest to start treating me like a pervert, but she just ignored it like nothing had even happened.
日本、いいえ、世界を見渡してみて、こんな場所他になかなかないわ。
Japan. No. Even if you examined the entire world, you would not find many places similar to this one. Did this have something to do with the D-swords? If not, then I didn't care. I had to somehow find a way to get Fest to tell me how to get my hands on a real D-sword.
新宿でも池袋でもなくて、
Neither Shinjuku nor Ikebukuro.
渋谷。
Shibuya.
この街の名前がどれだけ聞いてしまうくらい。
The name of the city has taken on a life of its own. Both in front of and behind me, the same words were being spoken from the two fesses at the exact same time. Perfect synchronization. It gave me a somewhat strange feeling. Had Fest split in half? Were both of them the real Fest, or were both of them imposters?
日本中の人たちに刻まれている若者の街という記号。
There is a thought engraved into the hearts of men all across Japan that this city carries the name, the City of Youths.
なぜかしら。
Why is that? Why? Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with me.
ファッションの街だから。
Because the city is ripe with fashion.
お店がたくさんあるから。
Because it is populated heavily with stores.
流行の発信地だから。
Because many trends originate here.
よくテレビに映るから。
Because it appears often on TV.
交通の便がいいから。
Because the public transportation is favorable.
違うわ。どれ？
No, it is none of those. The two fesses paused for a moment. Being watched from both in front and behind started to make me feel very uncomfortable.
大いなる意志よ。
It is because of the greater will.
高次存在。もっとわかりやすく言えば、神による意志なの。
The will of a higher being. Or, to put it simply, the will of God. This is bad. My rational side warned me. Could this be... Maybe she was trying to recruit me into some sketchy religious cult. I began to feel uneasy. Man, maybe I should just get the heck out of here. But upon hearing the next thing Fest said to me, I realized I no longer had that option.
理想度もまた、その意志による導き。
D-swords, too, are guided by this will.
引力ってあるだろう?
To begin, you've got this thing called gravity. I'm sure you've heard of it. Ben returned to the main street from the alleyway, and then began walking towards Shibuya Station. Suwa, who now assumed that they were going to Shinsen, chased after his senior detective with an obvious frown on his face.
万有引力のことか?
You mean the law of universal gravitation?
よく知ってるじゃねえの。さすがいい大学出てるだけあるな。
Real good head you've got on your shoulders there. Not surprising considering the nice college you came out of. Suwa grew discouraged in response to Ban's slightly mocking tone.
あいにく大学じゃオカルトは勉強しなかったっすけどね。
Well, I unfortunately didn't study the occult at my university.
オカルトじゃね
This doesn't have anything to do with the occult.
え。世界には引力がアンバランス化してる地域ってのが何か所かある。
There are these areas scattered across the world where gravity is unbalanced. Several of them.
アンバランス化ですか。
Unbalanced? Okay.
振り子が楕円を描いたのもその影響ってこ
That's what's causing the pendulum to form the elliptical shape.
と。GE レートって呼ぶらしい。
They call it the GE rate in English.
GE レート。
GE rate.
ああ、正式名称は何だっつってたかな。
Let's see. What did it stand for?
グルバケーション、グラリッシュ、
Gravitation, gravitation, gravitillation, era.
引力ならグラビテーションじゃないですか。
If we're talking gravity here, then could it be gravitation?
グラビテーションエラーレート。
Gravitation error rate?
おお、そうそうそう。
Oh yeah, that's it. You got it.
グラビテーションエラーレート。
Gravitation error rate.
直訳すると万有引力の異常値ですか。
Translating that literally would give you number of universal gravitation anomalies. I would think.
物理学の辞典を調べりゃ載ってるはずだぜ。
I'm sure you'd be able to find it if you sifted through a physics dictionary.
載ってたっすかね。
Is that where you got it from? The GE rate, an imbalance that contradicts the law of universal gravitation. Discovered by Isaac Newton, the law of universal gravitation is a fundamental force of nature that acts between all forms of energy and matter, i.e., anything that contains mass. It is commonly believed that the greater number of strata layered upon the Earth's surface play a large part in this law. A typical example of something that disturbs local areas would be lava beds. This phenomenon can be found at the foot of Mount Fuji. Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees, where there have been several recorded instances of compasses becoming unusable. Studies have also shown that fossil beds, particularly rich in iron and calcium, are another type of stratum in which magnetism is repelled. Adding on to the previous factors, magnetite is also believed to have a particularly strong influence on gravity. If magnetite, a naturally occurring magnet with an octahedral crystal structure, were to be found beneath the earth in a quantity large enough to warrant being recognized as a dike, it'd be as if the ground itself were a magnet. This would then result in an extremely high chance of the area producing minute gravitational deviations. The GE rate is a measurement of gravitational values in the region in which such values have been distorted by the previously mentioned geological strata. When Van's explanation concluded, the two men had been walking the entire time were just sexting onto Duganzaka. The scenery surrounding them instantly turned bright and dazzling.
渋谷の平均 GE レートは世界でもトップクラスらしいぜ。
I've heard that the average GE rate in Shibuya is one of the highest recorded in the world.
地面に置いたボールが一人でに坂を登っていくようなケースもあるらしい。
I've even heard that there have been cases in which a ball placed at the foot of a hill goes right on up by itself.
マジっすか?
Are you serious? Sue had been listening in utter silence up until now, showed his surprise with a slightly exaggerated tone.
まるで SF 映画の世界っすね。
Sounds like a world ripped straight out of a sci-fi flick.
お前の好きなな。
You enjoy that type of stuff?
自分は小難しいの嫌いっすよ。壮大なスケールの映画がいいっす。
I'm not a big fan of the convoluted ones. The large-scale epics are what I'm really into.
知らねえよ。
It's all Greek to me.
先輩の説明はすごくもっともらしいっすけど、なかなか信じられないっすよ。
Your explanation sounds pretty darn plausible, but it's still fairly hard to believe.
GE レートなんて聞いたこともないっすし。
I've never even heard of GE rate before today.
てめえの無知を一般論として語るな。
Don't act like your ignorance applies to everyone.
デカに必要なのは事実を客観視することだぞ。
Gumshoe needs an objective view of the facts.
はあ。でも。
That's true, but what Sue said was equally true. The research in the GE rate was minimal, and it certainly was not something that would be taught to an everyday college student. Ben himself had not even been aware of it until a few weeks ago.
そもそもまだ肝心の答えを聞いてないっすよ。
For starters, you still haven't answered the most important question.
渋谷の重力がアンバランスだと、なんで若者が引きつけられるんですか？
So, the gravity of Shibuya is unbalanced. I got that. But what does that have to do with young people being attracted to here?
引力と人間ってのは意外と因果関係があるってことだ。
There's a surprisingly big causal relationship between gravity and humans, you know?
お前、生き物のバイオリズムが月の引力に関係してるっての知ってたか？
Did you know that the biorhythms of all living things are affected by the moon's gravitational pull?
潮の満ち引きだけじゃねえんだぜ。
It ain't just the tides.
ウミガメの産卵には月の影響があるらしいってのはどっかで耳にしたことがあるっす。
I've heard about how the moon has an effect on sea turtles spawning.
ああ、必ず満月の夜に産卵するってやつだな。
Yeah, something like they only lay eggs on the night of a full moon.
だがウミガメだけじゃねえ。他に有名なのだとサンゴが産卵するのも満月の夜だ。
But it's not just sea turtles. Corals and other species that only spawns on full moon nights.
ああ、海の中が雪降ってるみたいになるやつっすね。
Oh yeah, that's the thing where it looks like it's snowing in the ocean, right?
満月の夜は引力が強くなってるって科学的に実証されてるんだ。
And it's been scientifically proven that gravity is much stronger on full nights.
当然人間にもその影響は及んでる。
So, naturally, this ends up affecting humans as well.
人の出産にもってことですか？
What, like with childbirth?
出産だけじゃねえよ。
Not just childbirth. Yeah, okay.
バイオリズムって言ったろ。
Biorhythms, like I said before.
普通の生理現象はもちろん、交通事故や事件、病気、食欲とか性欲とかにも密接なつながりがある。
They're closely related to normal physiological phenomenon, of course, but they also have an effect on traffic accidents, illnesses, appetite, libido, stuff like that.
興奮すると頭に血が上ってるっていうだろ。
You know what they say, blood rushes to your head when you get excited.
あれは月の引力に引っ張られてるんだよ。
That's from the moon's gravitational pull.
そりゃ極論だと思うっすよ。
That's a bit of a stretch.
まるで個々の感情なんて関係なくて全部月のせいだって言ってるようなもんじゃないですか。
It's like saying that the feelings of an individual people don't matter and that it's all the moon's fault.
そこまでは言わねえがな。
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
集団心理っていうの。この街に来た途端に楽しい気分になったり、ちょっと無茶したくなったりするかもしんねえんだよ。
It has to do with a thing called crowd psychology. The moment someone arrives in this town, they might feel exhilarated, or maybe like doing something a little reckless.
ニュージェネの一連の事件に対する反応だってそうだ。
This then likely applies to people's reaction to the string of Nugent
こ
incidents.
の街でそのニュースを見た連中は大抵反応が同じだ。
All the folks in this town who've seen the news are more or less likely to have the same reaction.
どいつもこいつも楽しんでやがる。自分だけは被害者にならないって気持ちだ。対岸の火事を眺めていい気になってる。
Every last one of them's enjoying it. They all revel in the feeling that it'll never happen to them. That it's just somebody else's problem.
そういう集団心理も GE レートのせいってことですか？
So are you saying that the GE rate is also responsible for this type of crowd psychology?
してはありだろう。
Possibilities there.
渋谷に来たら楽しい気分になるってのが若い奴らの頭の中に無意識に刷り込まれれば。
If it's subconsciously ingrained in the minds of youngsters that say coming to Shibuya is a real hoot, then
若者がこの街に惹かれる理由になるってわけですね。
that's why so many people are attracted. Oh my gosh. That's why so many young people are attracted to this city, huh? Sue really is a fast learner, Van thought to himself, impressed. Junior detective was still young, but that was part of him truly was worthy of praise. In addition, what set him apart from the other young people was that he did not just follow his senior blindly. This shit's stupid. In addition, what set him apart from other young people is that he did not just follow his seniors blindly. Whenever he had a question or whenever he thought something did not make sense, he would always voice it, despite the fact that he was junior in name.
GE レートについては一応分かったっすけど、それでどうやって犯人を探すんですか？
Now that we more or less have a handle on the GE rate is, or how are we going to use it to catch the culprit?
もし GE レートに影響されて今回みたいな事件が起きたってなら、何百年も前から似たようなことが起きてないと変なんじゃ。
These recent incidents were influenced by a GE rate. It'd be pretty strange if something similar hadn't happened over the past few centuries.
そいつはこれから調べりゃいいさ。専門家がな。
Yeah, I'm over this part. if you didn't notice. Which means our next step is to get an expert to look at it. A specialist.
先輩は調べないんですか？
You're not gonna do it yourself, sir.
俺はデカだ。
Me? I'm just a detective. Ben smirked ear to ear.
調べるのはニュージェネのことだけだ。
The only thing I plan on looking into is Nugent.
そのために今日はわざわざ仕事サボって現場の GE レートを測ったんだ。
Which is why I skipped out on work today, so I can measure the GE rate of this crime scene.
もしこれまでの一連の現場の GE レートが異常を示したなら何にするか。
I'm so over this GE rate crap. The crime scenes had up until now all showed normal GE rates. What do you think that might mean?
まさか。
No way. Sue's eyes went wide and then he stopped dead in his tracks. Seemed as if he had realized that Ban was trying to imply.
事件は GE レートが異常を示している場所で起こるってことですか？
The incidents all happened in places with the normal GE rates.
だとしたら次の事件が起こる場所をある程度予測できるんですね。
If that's true, then means we could somewhat predict where the next crime will take place.
はあ、そう決まったわけじゃないな。それをこれから調べるんだ。
We don't know that for sure yet. That's what we're gonna have to investigate it. There was something lurking within the city. Something yet unknown, hidden deep beneath its flashy exterior. Perhaps it was akin to Pandora's box. Something not meant to be touched by the hands of men. Thoughts such as these pervaded Ban's mind as he watched pedestrians file down the streets of Shibuya. gosh, that music was getting annoying.
その意志による導き。
D-swords, too, are guided by that will. As soon as I heard those words, I knew I couldn't take it anymore. Fess had been going on and on about these things I didn't care about, all while continuing to dodge what I'd actually asked her. I couldn't possibly care any less about some greater will or why Shibuya attracts young people or whatever else. There was only one thing I wanted to know.
ディソードはどうすれば手に入る？
How do I get my hands on a D-sword? Mustering up my courage, I asked Fess that question.
教えてよ！
Tell me. Without changing her aloof expression, Fess gazed down at the D-sword she was holding. Despite how gigantic it was, she seemed to be handling it with incredible ease. Maybe she just had an absurd level of physical strength or something.
教えられることじゃないわ。
It isn't something one can teach. Why not? Why is it that you'll go on and on about all this random shit? You can't tell me the most crucial thing I need to know.
見つけなくちゃいけない。自分自身。
You must find it by yourself.
方法なんて私には分からない。
I do not know of any methods. You don't know? Then how in the living fuck did you get the D-sword you're holding in your hand right now? However,
ディソードは力を持つ人にしか映せない。
D-swords can only be seen by those who possess the power. So, in other words, those without the power couldn't see them. But I could see it extremely clearly. But then, what did she mean by the power? Was she saying that I had supernatural powers? Like what the two Fesses in front of me had?
君には私の剣が見えているでしょ。
You can see my sword, can you not?
それが意味するのは一つだけ。
That can only mean one thing. If Shogun and Yua were destroying my life because of it, then I didn't want this stupid bullshit power. But I still did want a D-sword. Because it'd grant me salvation. Fess something. Stuff like the greater will and the reason why Shibuya attracted young people made no difference to me. I didn't want some random power, nor did I want to be roped into all this bullshit in any way, shape, or form. But in order to escape the clutches of Shogun and Yua, I had to get my hands on a sword.
感じて世界を選択した意志。
Feel it. Feel the will chosen by the world. But Fez's answer was ambiguous as every other damn thing she'd said. Biting my lip, I tried desperately to think of any way I could extract information from her. But as a person who is terrible at talking to 3D people, I couldn't think of anything that'd be effective at all. I tried to pull from my bank of eroge situations, but everything that came to mind was fairly unsettling, such as slipping her an aphrodisiac, tying her up, or imprisoning her. Man, I may or may not be extremely fucked up.
君、名前は？
What is your name? Huh? Fess turned her back to me, then slowly began to walk deeper into the tunnel.
私は岸本綾瀬。
I am Kishimoto Ayase. When she said that, I realized that we still hadn't introduced ourselves to each other yet.
西條匠。
Ishizu Takumi. I couldn't see Fess Ayase's expression from where I was. Why was she laughing? I didn't know.
また会いましょう。匠。
Let us meet again, Takumi. Yasuo was moving farther and farther away. I fearfully turned my head to see what happened to the other Yasi, only to find out that she had disappeared without a trace. Had she literally disappeared, or had she just walked out of the underpass? Yasi had said the other Yasi was a delusion. Maybe that was the power of the D-Sword. I returned my gaze to the inside of the underpass, and right as I did, I saw that Yasuo was going up the other staircase, which was about 50 meters deeper into the tunnel. Eventually, her figure disappeared completely, and now, all that remained was the eerie silence of the underpass. I wasn't brave enough to yell after her. I was too exhausted to run after her, and I was overwhelmed with the feeling that it wasn't worth the trouble. In the end, all I could do was return home as cautiously as I could, making sure not to be spotted by you or the police on the way. Felt like it had been ages since I'd last been at my base, but in reality, it had only been half a day. I'd left my computer on, leaving my Seritan screensaver to cast a pale light together with her smile across the dark room. I locked the door tightly from the inside and threw myself onto the sofa. When I closed my eyes, I couldn't help but remember everything that had happened today. I couldn't believe even the police thought I was the culprit. They had it all wrong. There was absolutely no way I could have killed all those people. Investigate like you actually give a shit. This isn't a game. Otaku freaks like myself were ostracized by society, so they must have thought that they could just pin the crime on one of us and the public wouldn't even bat an eye. They couldn't actually catch the real culprit, so they wanted to save face by using me as a scapegoat. Damn it. What could I do to clear my name? The scene at the internet cafe flashed before my eyes, sending a chill down my spine. There existed someone that was even more terrifying than the police. Yua, my enemy. I had been so unbelievably relieved that I hadn't heard anything from her recently. I'd been growing more and more confident that she'd never contact me again. But today, I'd realized that I'd been mistaken. In order to oppose all of them, I needed a D-Sword. I glanced at the cheap sword that was leaning against my PC desk. It was a fake. Yes, he had said that only people with the power can see them. The day I'd bought my sword, Nami had seen it with me. And unlike Ayase and Sena's sword, it didn't glow. Where would a real one be? I had to get my hands on one as soon as possible. If I didn't, I was doomed. Getting wrapped up in something this insane sucks so much. You
DID 多重人格なんです。
have DID, multiple personalities. No, that's not true. That's impossible. Multiple personality disorders are supposed to be rare in Japan. You've been watching way too many movies, Yua. I don't have multiple personalities. There's no proof of that at all.
違う。あれは違う。
Not true. It's not true. But that chat login is consistent with what you had told me.
あんなの捏造だ。証拠にはならない。
It's all fabricated. Can't be considered proof. But there's no proof that I don't have multiple personalities.
先生は僕を多重人格だなんて診断しなかった。
My doctor never diagnosed me with multiple personalities. But that very doctor, Dr. Takeshina, is now gone for some unknown reason.
僕が一番よく知ってる。
It's me. I know that better than anyone. But I don't actually know myself. I felt chills on the nape of my neck. The usual presence, someone was watching me, the unknown gaze. Whose eyes are those eyes?
そうだ。将軍だ。あいつが犯人だ。チャットログにもそう書いてあったじゃないか。
Yeah, that's right. Shogun. He's the killer. That's what it said in the chat log, right?
ユアは将軍の手下だし。
And you is one of Shogun's underlings.
ニュージェネ事件だって全部将軍が。
The New Gen cases were all Shogun. But does Shogun truly exist? Are you sure he isn't just a delusion?
僕はまともだ。まともなんだ。そうでしょ。
I'm normal. Completely normal. Right? I clutched my head and shouted out to no one in particular. But what I got in reply was,
メールだよボケナス
You've got mail, big dum-dum. Zara? I sluggishly made my way over to the computer and checked my email. The sender was Grim. Found something interesting was the subject line. It's probably just bait, and the contents of the email were meant to fuck with me. I didn't have the energy to deal with them personally right now, so I just stuck to just reading the email. Nightheart, why haven't you joined the chat room at all? You haven't been on ESO either, so I had no choice but to email you. Would have told you to watch this vid because it's seriously fucked. I know what you're thinking. It's probably just Grim fucking with me, but no. It was recorded by the New Gen perp. The net's going absolutely insane over it. Hurry up and watch it before you miss the hype. Shake my head. A video? That had been recorded by the New Gen culprit? My fingertips on the mouse began to tremble. I couldn't take my eyes off the email. Did that mean the killer was in the video? Who was it? No. Was it me? I both wanted to see it and didn't want to at the same time. This was the proof. Proof that I wasn't the killer. Or proof that I was the killer. Which one would it be? I didn't know. It was a gamble. Feeling my heart begin to beat faster and faster, I moved the mouse cursor and hovered over the link. But I couldn't work up the courage to click the URL.
私、あなたを助けたい。
I want to help you. Shut up. Don't treat me like a criminal. Don't act like you feel sorry. I didn't do it. You're the one on the criminal side, Yuo. In an intense fit of rage, I clicked on the URL. It was a Mewtwo video. The word loading appeared in the video window.
僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない僕じゃない。
It's not me. In reality, it only took about 10 seconds for video to load. Those 10 seconds felt like an eternity to me. Eventually, it finished loading, and the video started to play. It was a video of a very dark place. The background was pitch black. Maybe it was indoors. No, that's the dive. I leaned my head in close to the monitor, trying my best to parse the information on screen. It was dark and therefore hard to see, but there were several men and women there. They were all making a ton of noise. Maybe it was because the bitrate was too low, or maybe it was because the people in the video were too distraught, but I couldn't make out a single thing they were saying. Alright, the background noise is getting annoying. Every once in a while, whenever someone screamed violently, the sound would clip horribly. After watching for a bit longer, I was able to determine that there were 5 people in the video. If you include the cameraman, it would be 6. Cameraman didn't enter a frame at all. Because of how dark it was, the faces of the 5 people were just barely visible. As though to comfort one another, they were caressing each other's heads, patting each other's shoulders, and hugging. I could also hear the high-pitched sobbing of a girl, likely overcome with emotion. It was definitely bizarre, but how did this video have any connection to Nugent? Was the person filming this really Nugent culprit? At the very least, I knew I had no memory of recording something like this. And then, after a short while, the camera, or rather, the person holding the camera, began to move slowly forward. The 5 subjects, who were about 5 meters away from the cameraman, gradually grew larger and larger. The picture was fairly grainy. Maybe the original data was re-encoded in an extremely low bitrate in order to reduce its size. A modern video camera should have night vision functions, so I wondered why the cameraman didn't use it. It could have been an older camera. Ugh. I need to take more breaks. As soon as I thought that, the camera suddenly panned to the left, and then to the right, showing the surrounding scenery. What I had initially thought was just pitch black darkness of a room was actually the night sky. In other words, the video had been recorded outdoors. As for the reason why there wasn't a single building or anything, it was because the video had been taken on the roof of a skyscraper. The 5 people were on the edge of the roof of a very tall building. Right behind them was the ledge, and right below that ledge was the glittering nightscape of Shibuya that could only be seen at high altitudes. This is... Finally, I understood. I finally understood what this video was. I finally understood why it was said to have been recorded by the Nugent culprit. The group dive. The locked room mystery in which a group of 5 men and women jumped from the roof of the Cornelius Tower. The sole fact that remained unclear about Nugent was whether or not this specific incident was a murder case or a group. If this video was of the 5 people who jumped to their deaths, then that would mean that there had been a 6th person at the scene when the incident occurred. The 5 people shown in the video hadn't just been making noise for the sake of it. They were all slumped down on the ground, crying and shouting as they huddled together. They all refused to give up, despite the fact that they were fated to die soon. One was shaking their head in denial as they cried. One was clutching their hair tightly as they fell to their knees, their shoulders heaving with each sob. One was pleading with the cameraman as they sobbed, asking why they were doing this. One had already gone mad and was laughing as tears streamed down his face. It was a rabid, violent desire to stay alive, a fervent, intense plea not to die. Disconsolate indignation that screamed, "Why is this happening to us?" Innumerable raw emotions swirled around the group. Yet, in a bizarre juxtaposition, the cameraman's voice was never once heard. The cameraman was eerily calm.
やめろ。やめろ。
Stop it. Stop it. No matter how much I pleaded with the footage that had been taken nearly a month ago, nothing was going to change. I knew full well that it was meaningless, but I subconsciously screamed at the monitor all the same.
こいつらみんな死にたくなんかないんだぞ。
These people don't want to die. With no possible way for my words to reach them, the cameraman was holding moved even closer to the 5 people. Terrified, the 5 of them all tried to crawl away, to get away from the camera. But they couldn't. Right behind them was the very edge of the helipad. There was no guardrail of any kind. 5 of them had nowhere to go. If they moved back even a little bit farther, they would fall. Refusing to heed the 5's pleas for their lives, the cameraman continued to focus solely on filming, as if to agitate the 5 all the more. He had driven them completely to the edge, to the point where they took no further action at all. Then, without any sort of cue, nor any form of signaling to one another, the 5 people who had all been crying out in grief suddenly fell silent. Then, they all stood up. The wind on the rooftop of the Cornelius Tower was powerful. Beckoned by the wind, the 5 of them nearly staggered. If there was even the slightest misstep, they would fall. As if in preparation for such a thing, the 5 men and women all joined hands, seemingly in resignation. They grasped each other's hands tightly.
よせ。やめろ。謝るな。
Stop it. Don't be crazy. Silence. It seemed to me that even the sound of the wind whipping violently through the air had stopped. All I could hear was the sound of cars driving along Shudo Expressway at the foot of the building. Even then, the cameraman did not make a single move. And then, a single person among the 5 whispered,
その目誰の目?
Whose eyes are those eyes? I froze in front of the monitor, feeling as though my heart was being strangled by an ice-cold hand.
なんで
Why?
なんでまたその言葉なんだよ
Why those fucking words again? Wasn't this supposed to be the first New Gen case? Whose eyes are those eyes had been the dying message from the vampire case, and that one came forth. Didn't make any goddamn sense. Paying no mind to the screaming inside my head, the video continued to play. Hand in hand, the 5 men and women slowly stepped out into the empty air, almost as if there was a path laid out before them. And then, just like that, the 5 fell into the nightscape of the big city. I bit my lip and covered my eyes. The uploader's name was Booby. The group dive hadn't been a mess. It, too, was a murder case. The culprit had been there when it happened. As for who filmed the video, I knew who it was. Mixed in with the sound of the strong wind on the rooftop. Mixed in with the sounds of the 5 people crying out in grief. Mixed in with the blaring horns from Shudo Expressway below. I was certain that I'd heard one particular faint sound. It was the sound of creaking steel. A sound that could only be heard when the cameraman was moving forward. Sound of a wheelchair. Ooh.
あの時、僕の前に現れたのは、現実だったんだね。
What appeared in front of me back then was real.
カメラの目線が低すぎだよ。
The camera's line of sight was far too low.
Shogun.
Shogun.